This is Carrollton activities.
This
This
is
is
Carolyn
So my
Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I are joined by Nathan and Yara from Chapel Bell Curve. We talk about their Georgia stories, our times in Athens, how we're all feeling about this season, and we make a few picks for the game this week. It's an off-the-rails, bi-week collaboration episode. If you'd like to join a burgeoning community of like-minded individuals, head over to patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. And finally, if you need help with your website or your online presence, head over to workingwebmedia.com/dogs. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. Yeah, the opening of every episode of My God a Podcast says we're gonna join the conversation already in progress, and like it literally is true. And like tonight is like this is exactly
what's
what we do.
happening?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. So I guess I don't know. I'm Jim. You could be listening to Chapel Bell Curve. You could be listening to My God a Podcast. It's the collab episode, the crossover.
Yeah.
I will say, I'll give a shout out, Nathan. When I spied you at the Sousa show, Mississippi State game, and I took a picture. My daughter, we arrived. My daughter was like, "Oh, look, the band!" And so we went, and I was like, "Oh, I think that's the thing that like Nathan does, that he always talk about on Chapel Hill Curve." Anyways, I sent a picture to my buddy Brett Building, and he was like, "It's the collab that everyone's been waiting for." It was pretty funny.
Well, he incepted it into the world.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, welcome. This is fun. I know we've
Yeah.
mentioned maybe doing this before.
I feel like we've like orbited around like our spheres have sort of like finally aligned, such that we can
Yes.
make this transfer.
Right. Agreed. Amazing invitation by Yara. Sent a
Thank
trade
you.
request. Was like the funniest thing. Like I was dying laughing at that. It was amazing.
Yara, so let me tell you the secret of Yara as a podcaster. And I'm going to put you on blast.
God.
Top of the
Oh
show.
no.
Here's what
I'm
Yara
really
does.
scared. I'm really scared.
No, it's genius. It's actually genius. This is like, in some ways, Yara is like the podcasting version of Leonardo DiCaprio from Catch Me If You Can. And here's why. Yara, it has so many more references about just like teen culture. And then she'll use them on me. And then I think she made them up. So sometimes I have a TikTok account, so okay, I get them sometimes, but sometimes she'll do something and I'll just like lose it, and then I realize that Yara was making a reference, and I just think Yara is a comedic genius. But that's the grift, is that Yara's like, I'm the only Gen Z here, and all these aging men will think this is hilarious.
Yes.
That is incredible. That reminds me, Nathan, there's a TikTok account that I feel like, so now I know that you have a TikTok account, but there's this one account that I felt like if you had an account, this would be your account. This is basically for me knowing what I know of listening to your podcast. I'll have to find that next time one comes up, I'll send it to you.
So please do. Yeah.
And you'll be like, what is Jim talking about?
I don't like, one of the things about being a high school teacher that crept up on me, like when you come through a teacher prep program, they tell you a lot of things about how being a high school teacher changes you. But this is the thing that I didn't expect, is that I am so chronically online. I am so online. And I wish I was more of a Luddite. Like, I wish that people were like, "Oh, grandpa, you don't get what the TikToks are." But unfortunately, because I work around 17-year-olds 8 hours a day, and then I go to redcoat practice, like sometimes around the redcoats, I know TikTok trends that they don't, because my 17-year-olds, all they do, oh God, beer burp. All they do, I'm too old to drink a Miller High Life at 9 p.m. I just wanted to be in the spirit. But all they do
It's
is
a
sit up
Miller
and, like,
pause. It's a Miller highlight. You could. I believe in you, Unc. I believe in you, Grandpa. You got this.
all right,
Champagne
twin.
beers.
Yeah, baby.
That's right.
Slay.
I
There
love
you
that.
go again with the Gen Z slang.
I know that from my daughter. Although my youngest daughter doesn't like saying slay, my oldest does. So
Here was when you came to the Sousa show.
Mm.
This was my high school teacher reaction, was that you were really excited to see me and I was really excited to see you. And because I've been around high school kids too much, I saw your daughter and I was like, she really hates that her dad is enthusiastic about me. Like if you had walked up to me and been like, this idiot, I kind of know him, his podcast sucks, your daughter would have been like, oh, what's the name of his podcast? But you were like, oh my God, this is Nathan I was talking to you about. And she was just like,
Uh, she had the Ben Affleck like
yes, no,
Yeah.
no, we were talking and she was off to the side. I looked over and I was like, is that a Marlboro 100? Like, what are you doing, man? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. She did though. She got some good pictures of the Susie show that made it into her Instagram story.
oh,
So yeah,
I've
so it
been
was there.
blessed.
Yes. She loved the funeral. Like she picked up on it. She was like, "Oh, it's a funeral." Like she loved that.
Yeah,
So
everybody always catches it. It's a funeral, and nobody ever catches that we're playing the song from The Hobbit.
okay. Okay.
That's the song the dwarfs sing at the beginning of The Hobbit, Misty Mountain Cold. Like if you ever
oh
watched
yeah,
like the
Misty Mountain.
1980s cartoon thing, it just kind of sounds like a funeral song, but my personal like I didn't get any dates in high school nerddom really appreciates that like I'm making jocks listen to this Lord of the Rings song.
Okay. Got it. I like the irony there.
It comes full circle.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, ha ha ha, you said books were sucked. But actually,
That's too good. That's too good. Yeah, man. We had just
Off the
we
rails
parked at
already.
yeah, off the rails. That's okay. We parked at Tate and saw that. So kind of lucked out with that. Literally came upon it. That was fun. Um, I don't know. What do y'all want to talk about? The dogs are heck of a season thus far. Wanted to do something fun for the bye week, and so you know, we'll just talk about all the things.
We got
all
nothing
right.
else to talk about. Might as well talk about all the things.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I want to do the Georgia fan story thing. I think that's
Okay.
a cool idea
Yeah.
because John or Jim
Yeah,
was
I
saying
mean,
that John always asks people.
yeah, it's the question that we ask everybody that comes on is, what is your Georgia story? Like, how did you get involved in the University of Georgia? Why did you go to Georgia? All the things, whether it's, historical or, you're obviously we're alumni, so I'm sure that there's a connection there. But, what is your Georgia story?
Yara, I like yours a lot and I know most of yours, so I think you should go first.
Oh gosh. Okay. This is on the spot. All right. So I moved to Georgia in 2016 from Chicago, and both of my parents immigrated to the United States from like the Middle East. So I was not raised a Georgia fan. I wasn't into any of that stuff. I didn't even like football, which is so crazy to say now. But in 20, I was like fully determined to be a music ed major, right? I was not supposed to be here. But I in 2020, I went to JanFest, which is this huge like 3 or 4 day kind of festival that the Hugh Hodgson School of Music does for high school students. And they bring band kids in from all over Georgia, and you just get force fed like 5 or 6 pieces of music with a whole bunch of other students from Georgia in the span of 3 days. And then it happens. It's so much fun. And it's a great recruitment tactic to get people to apply to Georgia, I'll add. That's
Nice.
oh, it was so good because I did not want to go to Georgia for like the first 2, 3 years that I did JanFest. And then my last year, 2020, it was right off of when I finished a kind of tour with the University of West Georgia, go Wolves, wind ensemble in Natchitoches, Louisiana. So I did that. I went to JanFest, and this whole time I was thinking about, colleges that I was going to apply to. I fully intended on going back up north, y'all. I wanted to go to Northwestern until I looked at
Mm.
that tuition price. That was crazy. $90,000 a semester is a bit ridiculous. But I started like walking around campus. I got lost on my last day actually, and I just walked around what I now know as like the South Campus part where the school music is and everything. I
Mm.
started walking over there, and it was just the coolest experience to get to know Georgia without anybody like being my tour guide or having to go to places, it really changed my perspective on UGA. And I came back home. I kind of sat on it for a while. My dad, I love my dad so much. He forced me to apply to Georgia. If I was going to apply to all of these schools in Chicago and stuff, he was like, "This is your safety school. And if you don't get in anywhere else, you're going to go here." Thank you, Dad. I I ended up going back to Georgia on March 13th, 2020, the day the entire world shut down,
Mm,
to help my
Um,
friend move out of her dorm. Because at the time it was that 2 week like extended spring vacation. Nobody knew it
right,
was happening. We didn't know it
right.
was COVID. So I helped her move out. We stopped at Cookout. Specifically, yep. We stopped at Cookout. And I got the notification that my application had been processed and there was like a result waiting for me. And I got in to UGA and I literally screamed so hard. I think I scared the poor cookout people. I scared everybody so bad. That's how loud I screamed. And that was the first time I cried like tears of joy because that was crazy. I'm not an emotional person, not like, in the crying sense, but that was such a surreal experience for me. Just because it kind of represented the culmination of all that my parents worked really hard for. Like, my dad came here with literally like $150 and a dream.
Hmm.
And not to be all, hoorah, American dream, but hoorah, American dream. It was, oh,
yeah, seriously.
so great, USA. Like, and that same day, I put in I accepted my application or I accepted my admittance because duh. And I told my best friend who was already going to Georgia, like, hey, do you want to be roommates? And yeah, that's my Georgia story. I did Redcoats. That's where I met Nathan. I went to the national championship. I got to beat Alabama. Yes, finally. Oh my God, I hate Alabama so much. But it truly was. I just graduated in December of this year. And it was truly the most surreal, amazing time that of any experience ever. I learned so much. I became who I am today. I grew so much as a person. It was it was nothing short of perfect, even through the good times and the bad times. So now
Yeah.
now I'm an alum, go dogs, and now I'm here. And that's my Georgia story.
But
That's
also
awesome.
not a sousaphone player originally, right?
Oh yeah, I started piano when I was 3, but then I started oboe, which is like knockoff clarinet. It's a fascinating thing. I love oboe, don't get me wrong, but what a choice. And I taught myself sousaphone, I think freshman year of high school because I got told that I was a little too scrawny to play sousaphone. I was like 80 pounds soaking wet freshman year of high school. I was stickly. And I was told, you know what, just stick with trumpet. Stick with something light. And
Hmm.
because I'm the most stubborn bitch alive, I picked the sousaphone and I taught myself sousaphone. It was excellent.
That's
That's awesome.
hilarious. So you're like a virtuoso, huh?
Oh, I wouldn't say all of that. I don't know about that. Nathan can tell you.
No, you were fine. You were fine.
I
You can
appreciate.
march. You can march, and your sound didn't take away from what we were doing.
Thanks.
There we
Okay.
go. There we go.
You were in tune and in tone, baby. That's what matters.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. I wasn't bad then. All right.
So was Nathan like the Kirby Smart of the Redcoats? Was he like
No,
was
no.
he like demanding?
I'm like the offense. I don't want to claim to be Stacey Searles. I think I'm better than that. But I'm like the I work with one section. I'm basically a position coach.
Position coach. Okay.
I
Okay.
don't think I'm that demanding, Yara. I'm not.
You're
No.
maybe you're like the Todd Hartley. You're like the
Yeah,
Todd
the Todd
Hartley.
Yeah,
Hartley.
yeah. I'd say there are Redcoats that listen to this who are going to say this is BS, but like the thing about the sousaphones is they don't want to be gentle parented. I had this thing at the beginning of the year that I was doing where I was like not cursing and I wasn't yelling at them and I was being like, "Hey guys, let's be quiet coyotes and like let's be competent koalas," and they hated it. They despised it. They were like, "Are you making fun of me?" And if I just went back there and it was like, "Listen here, you bleep bleep, you can bleep," then they're like, "Yeah, okay, cool, yeah." And so it was like, I don't. I guess like I'll work with the tools available, but I don't. That's not my like default teacher persona. You know, I have to be pushed into it.
Got it.
That's funny.
Got it. I was
Man,
gonna
Yara,
say,
you like you went through it all. You went through it all, like the good
yeah.
times and the bad. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
COVID baby straight into two
yeah.
national titles is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little fascinating. I think going to Indianapolis. Oh, I forgot to mention this. I was also a truck driver for Redcoats. That's my super lore. I
Mm,
so going to the end of my freshman year, I still didn't have my driver's license because I was scared. The road makes me anxious. So
Oh
So
dear.
she signed up to drive 24-foot trucks full of sousaphones.
yes, oh my God, this is gonna get me in trouble, but I signed up to do that without having my license. I fully did that. That was like my encouragement thing. So I got my license, thank God, because that would have been really bad. And I learned how to drive a truck in like 2 days ish, and then I drove it to North Carolina for that one game against Clemson up there.
That
It
was your
was
first game,
delightful.
right? Or
Oh
second?
yeah,
That
it
was the first game
was.
of your sophomore year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
that's
And
awesome.
then you drove to Miami and Indianapolis.
Yes, we popped a tire in Florida and it was the scariest experience alive. Imagine being on the side of an interstate with a like popped tire on a truck, but also imagine it being next to Florida drivers.
Mm.
Oh, I was so scared for like the better half of 2 or 3 hours. I was just frantically texting like anybody who could help. Just please get me out of here. The Florida people are looking at me funny and I want to go home. It was so surreal. But yeah, I drove trucks for my sophomore year. It was a lot of fun. I
What was your
just
truck driver name?
oh, I didn't have
What
them,
was
but
the
I,
handle? What was
I
the handle? Your CB handle?
no, I didn't have one, but I wish I did. That would have been really cool. I just man, I like to drive in my oh, I got to make that one freaking Auburn song come true. The like I like to drive in my truck, Auburn
Mm.
sucks. I
Yes.
swear to God, I wanted to drive the trucks to Auburn so badly so we could do that. But we just, put the sousaphones under the bus and took it that way. Which is fine. But that entire week, all I did was listen to that song until I made it come true. And then we made Auburn, as we
In
always do.
2021, I believe, was the first time I heard your voice, Yara, I think, as a listener of Chapel Bill Curve.
Oh my
Was it
gosh.
that when like Yara's Rage started? Am I making this up?
Yes.
Yeah, Yara's
No.
Rage Against the Machine. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought.
Oh my yes.
What happened was the first time Yara has like such an unhinged Twitter presence or had. I think she deleted her Twitter account. But
I needed a break. I can't
there
do it. Too
there
much
was a
rage.
there was a time at which Yara had a crazy Twitter presence, and I would be like, "Oh, well, do you want to do something on the show?" And she would send me these like PDF images or like JPEGs basically of like she'd taken her like Apple Pencil on her iPad and drawn these like beautifully like calligraphied like screeds about how much she hated something. And so it was like someone's notes like from high school where they'd make it all pretty, except it was just like about death, like every time.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was
I
just her
was
yelling about Jake Fromm or something, or like this is the first year was before Stetson Bennett was Stetson Bennett,
Right.
and there was
Right.
one that was like, "Who is this scrawny little white boy,
yeah.
and what
Who
does he
the
think he is?"
It was who the is this guy and what does he think he's trying to do? I was so angry. Why was I so angry?
Well,
But
you were
yeah.
like
Amazing.
19.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Mm,
I wasn't legally allowed to go to the corner store and like buy alcohol yet. So that might have been the reason legally. But
fair.
yeah, that was the origin of Yara's Rage Against the Machine. I had my iPad, I had my Apple Pencil, and I had a dream. And that was it.
Don't let your memes be dreams, I guess is the point of the story.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Words to live by. Words to live by.
Absolutely.
I guess what about you, Nathan? What's
Well,
your Georgia story?
Mr. Lawrence.
mine is oh my God. I tell people Mr. Lawrence lives in Jackson County and Nathan lives in Clark County, and they don't know each other. Like
Oh,
I'm coming down for.
I was making the Karate Kid reference.
Yeah, no, I know, I got it. Don't worry. Between that and Friar Lawrence, when you read Romeo and Juliet, let me tell you, these kids are comedians. Um,
Uh, that's
so
great.
I had so much of a less well-developed self-awareness than Yara about my life, and I went to UGA at a time when, I mean, I was good at school and smart, but it wasn't like it is now. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We were still proud of being the number one party school when I went to school. So
Yeah.
I grew up. Um, I mean, I liked football and like was aware of it. And I went to high school at Carrollton, which had a really good football team at the time. And I was in the band, and we'd lost like 3 games. I think we lost like 5 games my entire high school career or something like that. We never lost. We beat everybody. And so I eventually had to, I just like learned football as like a self-defense mechanism. My parents are both from Florida, and my dad was like a nominal Florida fan. I mean, I wouldn't say we like grew up Florida fans. Like we never went to a game or anything. And I'd been to a couple of Georgia Tech games for their band day. And then we had a friend who was a Georgia Tech fan, and I just like really liked marching band. Like I was such a dork. And I was actually like had preliminarily signed up and gotten a really good scholarship to go to Auburn, to the point where like my
I feel like that'd be
dad
really
had,
good.
yeah, my dad had like that was at a time where you could get in-state tuition at Auburn if you were on a border county, and I grew up in Carroll County, which so I could get in-state tuition, and I was in their honors college, and like I'd I'd done everything but sign on the dotted line. Like my poor dad had bought me like an Auburn, like a really nice, like men's inlaid Auburn jewelry box. You know what I mean? To like put rings in and stuff, which he later showed me like 10 years later. And I went on a campus visit. I went on an official campus visit, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I went on a visit with like a friend of the family. And I was just like, "Wow, this is just like Carrollton, but like with a football stadium. Like I cannot go, I cannot be in another small town. So I applied at a bunch of different places, but Georgia was the place that had the best academics and a marching band, which was the two requirements, right?
Hmm.
And I didn't want to do math, and Georgia Tech didn't have an English ed program, so it had to be Georgia. So I actually, this is a deeply embarrassing story. I actually applied to and got into Georgia, and had not been to Athens as an adult uh, until my Redcoat audition, which was
Mm.
like after I had already accepted and like paid my deposit or whatever. And I remember going up there and being like, I really hope this works, because this is gonna be it, you know? Like, so I had an ex-girlfriend who was had been in Redcoats too. And so I went up there and she showed me around, and we went to Occam's Kebab like back in the day when it
Oh
was
yeah,
over.
K-Bob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
before it was Kebab, it was
Yes.
Occam's. And we
Yes.
went to
Yeah.
Occam's when it was like
The-
near where like I guess Zombie Donuts is right now, or where it used to be. I think Zombie Donuts closed down, but like right there by Magnolia's and Republic Salon. And we went over
Mhm.
there, and I was like, "Oh, I like this place." And she was like, "Yeah, that was just North Campus. Let's walk over here." And I was like, "It's bigger than that, you know?" And I was such an idiot. Like that was like the first time I'd been on campus. But then I I got into band because I just liked band. And I did Redcoats the first year, and there were these two guys who were like seniors in my section, Kyle and Matt. Matt was the section leader, and they were like super into football. And that was when I really was like, well, we have to sit at these games, so I'm going to learn about football. And then, I mean, and then from there it was like, okay, well, what about football statistics? Because I just read Moneyball because I didn't have a lot of dates in high school before I met my wife. Um, and then
God
here we
bless you.
are. Yeah, and then here we are basically. um I feel like I sort of just like wandered into this really, I mean, I guess as it happens with many people, I feel like I sort of just like lucked into the best things in my life, you know? Like I dated this beautiful girl in high school because she was listening to Led Zeppelin when we were going to Beta Club convention, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to go out?" And then we got married. We're still married. And then like, you know, and then I went to UGA because it was like the one that had a football team and a band.
Yeah.
And now I'm like I still work for them, so it feels like Yara has this like American dream success story, and I feel like I'm just like the guy who accidentally wandered into the party and that people just like enough that they don't say he wasn't invited, you know? Like I'm just like, oh hey guys, like oh he's a good hang, you know?
Oh, that's funny. I was curious on the stats thing that you answered it because I was wondering how you went from like English literature to stats, but it,
Well,
but
I
it came
don't
from but it came from a book, or were you always into statistics?
well yeah, I mean I took AP A AB AP calculus, the first AP calculus class, and I got a 5 on it. And I didn't want to take BC
Who's
calculus.
counting?
So yeah, well, you know, this is the last
Let
math achievement I had in my life. So just let me have this one thing. And then I didn't want to take BC calculus, so I took AP stats. And I thought it was really fun, but I didn't turn in any of the work, and I got a C for like the first time in my high school career. My dad took my car. And then I got like a spite 5 on that test. And those were the only two math classes I had to take in college, basically. But
That's
Hmm.
awesome.
I wasn't
The
really a
smart way.
math yeah, yeah. I wasn't really a math person. I don't think that English, like the study of text, is actually different than what we would do with stats. I think of, okay, I'm about to get like real pretentious. So like, please, like
I'm
pump
ready
these
for
brakes as much as you need to.
I'm ready for this. I'm so ready for
Okay,
this.
so we in English, we talk about textual analysis as textual lenses, right? You can read a book from like 20 different ways, right? And good people who really know how to analyze English and good writers know and good readers know how to flip through these lenses. Like, am I reading this in a formalist sense where I'm just looking at this text? Am I looking at this historically, like with the biography of the author? And you have to kind of flip between these lenses. And to me, the appeal of stats, like I really got into it when Bill Connolly was at like Rock M Nation, and then he
Mm.
was doing like SB Nation stuff. And I just like I was like obsessed with all I've like read everything he wrote. But to me, stats is it is just a different textual lens. I feel like when I watch football without stats, it's like eating food without your sense of smell. Like it's like you're not like when I'm at the game, I I love the pageantry and the tradition and seeing my friends and family, and I love cheering and like wanting to win, but I also like kind of want to know what's going on, but I never played football, right? So like the only lens through which I have to like better understand what's happening on the field is statistics. And like it doesn't necessarily make me like smarter. It's just like I think that with like just some really basic statistical knowledge, you can become a more intelligent consumer of the game. And to me, that's like more fun. Like I don't want to read books that I don't fully understand. And in the
Mm.
same way, I don't want to watch a game where there are layers of it. Like there's like one of the things you see is like a Redcoat staff member is there's like so many like stacked up systems when you're watching college football games. Like when you're at the game, there's what's on the field, then there's the band, and then there's the fans, and then there's the people running the elevators that take the coaches up to their coaches' boxes, and then there's the high school kids who are volunteering to sell concessions, and then there's like the Gwinnett County school police officers who are there to run the crowd. And so there's just like all these different like layers upon layers of like cultural organization and like things happening, and like you can never suss out all of them, but I just think it's really intriguing to watch, to be able to look at a game and see as many different like facets of that diamond, right? You can just keep turning this gem and it's like a different thing every time, right? Like for you it's like memories of you and your dad, and for another person it's like the first girl you kissed in the student section, and for another person it's like heartbreak of going to a game and like watching the Tennessee Josh Dobbs Hail Mary or whatever. And I think that stats is just like another facet of that, right? All right, I'm that's done.
Yeah.
I'm done sounding smart.
No,
That's all I got in me.
no, that's cool. That's
Forget it,
cool.
he's rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I often feel like John when we're on this podcast, I feel like sober John Belushi from Animal House. Like if John Belushi were like smart enough to sound smart, but still dumb enough to be John Belushi, like that's sort of the where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I will credit finding Chapel Bell Curve however I did when you guys started. Um, and back then, like, we didn't have a podcast yet. John and I used to text about podcasts a lot. And we actually started texting about you guys. Like that's where initially started looking into stats, honestly. Listening to you guys got me interested into it, and John and I would kind of bounce stuff off of each other. So I never looked at it at all until then. And so now I still do. I don't have like the depth of knowledge, but there are things that I do look at that I do feel like kind of help
Well,
me
and
to try to
yeah, exactly.
evaluate what might happen, you know.
Yeah.
We created
And
our own impact score.
That's true. We do have an impact score.
nice.
Uh
We
yeah.
we got really lucky the first year because in 2017, the Rose Bowl year was the first year we did it, and
Mm,
there was a lot of publicly available data, like not sharp stats. Like I'm talking like Bill Connolly is writing this on a blog. There was just a lot of publicly available data where you would be like, well, SP Plus has us winning 11 games, and nobody was predicting that. And I do
mm.
think part of our success has been like looking at things that are publicly available and being like, huh?
Right. Right.
Huh? Did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got like I sometimes people
Yeah.
think of us as being like smarter than we are, but a lot of times it's just like, do you see how this number is higher than that number? Like
Right.
that's all I got. Like that's all I got. One of these numbers is higher. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
This season has been one of the more stranger seasons since we started looking at this stuff is because like none of it makes any sense. Sorry, Carter. Um, that's I mean I think that's your comment about like eating without the smell. And that's actually been my introduction to it was when Jim introduced, I think Jim was the one that introduced me to you guys and started listening to you guys and started learning about some of the different stats and all that kind of stuff. And I think that the one of the more interesting things is like I had a feeling about how I was feeling about the different things and the games and who we were playing and all that stuff. The stats helped me to layer on how it actually was. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
Like I needed to listen to Chapel Bell Curve so that I could feel better about how I was feeling about the games. Because like
right.
haven't like Jim and I would be like, have you listened to Chapel Bell Curve? Like, no, I haven't listened to it yet. Like, okay, I just want to see what they say
Well,
about it because I think that we're gonna be fine, but I want to hear what they have to say about it.
I do think it there is a little bit. Do you guys go to the games? I
Yeah.
know you were at that one game, but like one thing
I
I
do.
noticed.
I've got season. I mean, I don't go to every game. Like we've got a block of season tickets
Mhm.
between like my family of four, my sister and her family of four, and my parents. So we've got six seats that among those 10 of us,
Rotate through.
we rotate, yeah, and we
One of
attempt
the
as best we to get all six field every game.
I do
Yeah.
feel like the other thing that we were kind of like I've been really trying not to curse, but the big thing that we were like
Stickler
responding
button
against,
thing.
yeah, the thing we were responding against and fighting a little bit too was like if you go to all the games or you go or you watch a lot of or you just watch every play of a Georgia season, or I mean really any team, but if you watch every play and you go to all the games, you'll see stuff from national writers and you'll just be like, did you watch the game? And I mean the
Hmm.
answer is probably not, right? Like because
Yeah.
like who can consume all of that data? And so like I think that well, one, I think Georgia fans are really lucky because there is not really a lot of this in the podcasting sphere for Georgia. But the thing that we were kind of responding against was that like and I'm not talking about any particular person right now. I'm just talking about in 2017 was like there was just a certain kind of sports personality that talked about college football that was like if you gave the Fox like football robot like a vocalizer. Like that was the vibe. It was like, ugh, and then they spike the ball and they're like four reasons why Georgia sucks. And it was just so like I mean we don't have to be NPR but like we can think a little like for God's sakes like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was kind of in the height of like the Jim Rome Skip Bayless kind of ESPN era and I
Hmm.
do think a lot of what we were doing was just being like what the hell there's no possible way you know what you're talking about
Yeah.
there's just like have you even seen Todd Gurley like as a human have you seen him on film or in person like I remember that one distinctly I remember someone talking about Nick Chubb I think actually and being like have you ever seen this man play they were like he's not that fast and I was like I literally don't think you have ever watched a Georgia game. Like, I don't think you have.
Yeah.
I feel like that recency bias here, but like, the Texas game is a pretty good example of all this. Like, you know, everybody and their brother thought that Texas was going to win that game. I mean,
Hmm.
and it also speaks to the drunkenness that is college football this season, where the modeling was all over the place. Like one model
Oh,
was like, oh
crazy.
yeah, yeah. So like, and I think that we talked about that offline, but like part of that is just due to how worthless last season's data was versus, how things have gone to date. I mean, you look at the stats and you look at how everybody was measuring, and then you also have to factor in all of the opponents that people have played. It's like there's a number of different factors and facets that come into it that I feel like then the arbiter, one of the biggest arbiters is Vegas. Vegas knows, right? Like
Yeah.
the line opened really tight. So like on paper, at least Vegas wasn't writing us off completely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it
And I
wasn't going
and
to be
I
as cut and dry a game, and it should not have been as a surprise, and the stats would have borne that out.
and I think thank goodness that we have a personality and we're not just relying on stats, because I do think that we started an era when nobody did stats. So it was way easier for us to just be like, here's things that are publicly available that we read. We'll repeat them. And then people will be like, oh, they're so smart. Like, but there was no, like, it was just like,
Yeah.
I opened an Excel spreadsheet. Like, I don't have a math degree, but this is what it says. And then people will be like, whoa,
Yeah.
but I do think that a lot of, if the sort of Saban era, I think maybe like mid Saban, like 2010 to 2020 was really the birth of like modern advanced college football metrics. Like, and of every major sport, college football probably has the worst stats. Like, and we have really good stats, but like compared to NFL, NBA, God, baseball, like we got nothing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our good modeling hits came on the fact that you could treat statistically a lot of things in college football like you did in the NFL, um, in terms of like there was a steadiness of like roster, right? And the quantification of talent was really easy to do. It was just like I mean, a lot of our metric when we were starting in those early days was like, all right, let's go look at the 24/7 that data. Are they over the blue chip ratio? Do they have more than 50% 4 and 5 stars? No. Okay, well, let's start there. They're probably going to lose, right? And like
Mm.
Yeah.
it is almost like it's a cliche to talk about the transfer portal, but one thing that I think that is, I mean, I'm sure that Vegas is making bank on this, but one thing that I think is really throwing off even sharp numbers right now is that you it's hard to interpret the data. Like, it used to be that all the good players went to the good teams, and if you left a good team,
Right.
it was because you weren't good enough to play, right? So like you got processed. Like I'm
Mm.
trying to think of like
Meeks.
oh, Meeks or like Nate McBride, right? Nate McBride comes in, he's like
Nate
the highest
McBride.
rated inside linebacker we've ever had. He doesn't play. No one for a second thought that he was good enough to play and would go somewhere else, right? Like he just
Mm.
kind of languished on the depth chart and that was it, right? Or all the people who've just been like processed out and then they go to ULM and you're just like, whatever. Like, we still have an accurate representation of like the people who are at Alabama who we said were 4 and 5 stars. If they're playing, they're probably 4 and 5 stars, right? But now it's like so much more difficult to rely. I mean, 24/7 does a great job and they've added transfers to their talent composite and they like regrade people based on stuff, but it's just so much harder to know, like, like what is a really good FCS player worth on an FBS team? What
Right.
is if Ashton Genty I mean, I hope he wins the Heisman. I think he's great. But if he transferred to Alabama next year, what would he be worth? He'd probably be the best
Yeah.
running back on their roster, but there's no possible way to quantify, like, because the basic axiom that Bill Connolly started with was like the more talented team usually wins, right? And like you can kind of just like start there as your first, like, the first layer of analysis of that. Who is more talented, right? And it used to be that you could really accurately answer that question, but you really just can't anymore because it's so hard to know, like, okay, did Colby Young transfer to Georgia because he wasn't getting playing time because Miami's wide receivers are better for Georgia? Or was it because he wanted more NIL money at the SEC? or was it because that he just thought that he had a better chance of getting a ring at Georgia or better NFL prep? Like, there's
Yeah.
just no way to know in a predictive sense what the answer to that is. And
And
Yeah.
that I,
look at Urasek. Like
yeah, yeah,
he came into Georgia as you know, an NFL caliber player, and I think that he's lost money this season.
oh, big time.
Yeah. Well, you got like last year, or I guess over the last few years, like that Cody Schrader guy at Missouri, right? I mean, he
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
he was like, that's like the big jump up. He's what, like D2 or whatever. And then what led Missouri in rushing last year.
Well, and I think that, and the problem too is like, I'm not saying anything new in saying this, but development isn't linear, right? So like Urisic could get signed to a practice squad next year and then end up being like a all pro tight end just because he figured some stuff out, right? So,
Figures it out, yeah.
and I think it's good and better for college football that players get to go where they want to play and get to play where they want to play. And I think having more parity in terms of like, yeah, it was great for us, but it did kind of suck that like 40% of the 4 stars went to 3 schools. Or you know what I'm saying? Or five
Yeah.
stars rather. And but I think that it sure as hell makes it harder to predict a football game, man. Like it just I don't know. I generally know who the more talented team is. Like I think we're more talented than most of the teams will play. We're probably more on paper talented than Tennessee. I
Mhm.
think we might have been more talented than Alabama, but like
Yeah.
every one of those teams has such, well, God, don't even get me started. But every one of those teams has such massive transfer influx and outflow that it's hard to quantify what that means, right?
Yeah.
I think that well, you might be able to provide a unique perspective on it because you're you're a high school teacher, right?
Yeah.
So the advent of NIL in high school, for example, these kids that are in high school that are able to capitalize on their own name and image likeness situations while they're actually before they even get to campus. I think that over time we're in this like we're still in like the wild west of NIL. Maybe it's not as wild as it was last year, but it's still pretty wild. At some point, the kids that are the 5 stars that have the NFL caliber talent or whatever, if they start seeing their peers, let's say the juniors and the sophomores start seeing their peers going to the Colorados of the world or the Ole Misses of the world and just getting actually absolutely smoked, they may start to realize that, you know, maybe the money isn't always the best game in town. You know what I mean? So I think that there probably will be a little bit of regression to the mean, to use the statistical term, like that the good players are going to find the good teams.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a God, I hate to use this word because Jesus Christ knows I'm not a finance pro, but there is, I think, a little bit of a bubble in the system right now where it NIL money is worth a lot to teams, but it is not being efficiently invested right now at this point. And I think there was such a buildup, like whenever you have prohibition, right? Like there's such a buildup in demand, and then like the court comes off, and there's like an explosion of production. I think that's kind of what happened. Is like all of a sudden, like the dude who owns 8,000 acres in Mississippi can spend his money legally on Ole Miss, right? So he's gonna just like fire hose it into a program. So I don't know long term. And then I think also like we're in a situation where bad regulation, like light regulation can be worse than no regulation, right? Like
Mhm.
when we were
Yeah.
all doing this illegally, we had some kind of like equilibrium built up. And now it's like we're doing it legally, but there are no rules, which is like actually more chaotic than pretending like there were rules for some reason. Like,
Yeah.
That's so true.
I think that we're also finding that, like, you know, yeah, people like Bear Alexander, like look at what happened to him. Like, you know, he went out to USC and like fizzles out. And
Transferring
then you've
again,
got,
right?
yeah, he's
mhm.
transferring. Yeah. Um,
I heard we let him go too.
well, yeah, there's that aspect of it. But then you've also got situations like where, you know, certain positions statistically seem like that they're more impactful than others. I think we went through this with Ross talking about values of different positions and where what makes an elite team if you were building a team like Moneyball style or whatever.
Mhm.
Like what positions would you invest in first? And there's there's all sorts of data that Russ compiled and basically just kind of centered on a handful of positions. If you had limited funds, like where would you invest them? And I think that the whole topic of conversation was centered around, why can't we get elite wide receivers? And that seemed to be one of the positions that was a key component for an elite team.
Yeah, and I think that if we want to talk about this season's Georgia, I think it's a pretty good example of it is still possible, even in the transfer portal era, to do the Alabama thing, because I think what Georgia is doing is the Alabama thing. I think the offense is inconsistent. So, like, how do you solve for a really talented but inconsistent offense from a program building standpoint? You just play like low margin suffocating ball, right? Like
Hmm.
you sack the quarterback a bunch, you get punts, and then if you have to punt, well, you probably are more talented on defense than they are on offense. And every time but one that worked, right? And you see the
Yeah.
one time it didn't work, I mean, it was basically because of one wide receiver, right? And
Yeah. And turnovers. But yes, agreed.
there is like a reverse triple option thing that goes on, I think, with like Alabama, Georgia level things where it's like, there's the whole thing about how like, why do you do the triple option? Well, you do the triple option because you can't recruit offensive linemen, right? So
Hmm.
you need an offensive system that will do, exactly what you want. That will overcome that gap because you're kind of playing asymmetrical warfare every time you play a better team than you. But I think teams like Georgia can kind of do the reverse thing where they're like, well, we don't have X, Y, and Z, but we can just basically throw talent at the program, right? Like if you have 21 pressures on 34 pass dropbacks against the opposing offense, if it doesn't matter if your quarterback throws 3 picks. And I think that's kind of what we're doing. We're doing like a reverse triple option where we're just like, we will just be so overwhelmingly talented, more talented than the other team at a specific position or a specific group of positions that it doesn't matter at the places where we have fundamental weaknesses, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
our tight ends can't catch. Well, Michael Williams, deal with that, and then we'll move from there, right? Like,
Right. And he wasn't healthy against Alabama too. Like,
right, yeah. I mean, and there we go, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. I am I do think it's wild that we're at where we're at and we still haven't played I would say a fully complete game. Like even
no,
against Texas, that
no,
wasn't a complete game because the offense wasn't there. Or not, whatever, not clicking on all cylinders. So I don't know. I think that's should be scary for others if we can figure that out
yeah.
and pull it together.
I don't know how to like talk about this like without it being like a Kirby Smart hagiography, and my like built-in like aversion to that's hard for me to do because I inherently mistrust authority, right? So it's hard for me to be nice about a rich white man. But I will say I think that there is I think Kirby Smart is really good at coaching over an entire season. Sometimes he's a little too like small C conservative for me as a game day coach, and I think he'd probably go for it on fourth down more if he wanted. But I think he is just really good at the psychological side of it, and in terms of, I think he treats it. I noticed like, did you guys watch the little like mini movie that they made about the Texas game?
Oh yeah, it's
Yes.
fantastic.
Oh, so good. Yeah, and the like real shady thing with the bottles that was great. But
That was great.
at
It's
one
it
point,
was it was cinema. It was cinema.
oh, so good, so petty, so petty.
So
And we
petty.
learned about and on our Texas preview, we learned about why because we talked about the Longhorn Network and the Delaware Valley oil reserves for like an
Oh,
hour.
speaking of super, super awesome episode, by the way. I was like, Yara got me on the fun facts.
Yeah, no, Yara will
And
do
and
something.
Nathan, and Nathan.
No, but see, here's the thing. I have this like deep, like I have like a incumbency advantage, right, over Yara because there are things that are just like seem like fun facts to her, but they happened when I was alive. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm like, yeah, I know where Johnny Manziel went to college. He went to college when I went to college, and she's like, whoa, and I'm like, dad. And then she says whoa, and I feel like the grasp of death around my throat. But then
Uh,
Yara gets real sneaky because like I will know more trivia because it's stuff that I know. And then but Yara is so much more online than me that she'll just be like, well, I can also get on Wikipedia. And then she's just like, famous people from Texas. And I was like, yeah, dude.
uh,
The
This is
oil
what I
field,
provide. This is what I
the
provide to
oil
this
field.
space. I don't do stats. I I got 1A in college statistics, and that was it. That was what I needed for my communications degree. What I lack in stats, I make up for in personality hires. Oh yeah.
look, you've gotta have the right vibes.
Hmm.
That is important. And I think too, I mean, like you have a very different perspective than the other three of us on here right now, Yara. And that I mean, you only know Kirby Smart Georgia Bulldogs, right? I mean, that's it for you,
Yes. I and
which is pretty
that's
cool.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. All I know is
Is
Go
it?
Dogs and Kirby Smart, and it is so much fun. I'm so sorry for the aging that is about to occur. My first loss was in 2021 against Alabama in the SEC championship. That was it, and I was crying so hard in the stands with my 45-pound sousaphone on
No,
my shoulder.
when she, I have never felt older than when we lost to Alabama this year. And she was like, she texted me after the loss and she said, Nathan, how do you deal with a Georgia loss? And I was just like, oh
Tell
God.
me, tell me you haven't seen Georgia lose to the West Virginia in the Sugar Bowl
Well, no, you know
Who
what it made
without
me?
in
telling
the
me.
who?
No, Yara, my last game as a Redcoat, and I knew it was my last game. I had a victory lap because I didn't get into UGA's undergrad English Ed program and I had to switch my major, but whatever. My fifth year, I knew it was going to be my last game. I'd already gotten into grad school, starting the next semester. My last game as a Redcoat was that we lost to UCF in Jacksonville.
Mm.
No, in Memphis. It was even worse.
Memphis. Yeah, no,
It was like
I
it
was
was
there.
Tennessee?
no, we lost to the
No, Memphis,
Universe.
Tennessee.
Yes, yes, not Memphis, Egypt.
Music City
Memphis,
Bowl.
Tennessee. Yes, we went to the Music City Bowl. We had
That's
gone
a
like
that's a Liberty Bowl, right? Music's
Liberty Bowl. That's what it
Liberty
was.
Bowl.
Yeah,
That
you're
I
right.
Music
think
City
You're
so.
Bowl's Nashville.
Yeah.
We went to the Liberty Bowl. We had gotten a we had a horrible season. I think we went 6-6, or maybe 7-5 or something. And we went and we played a Bill O'Reilly, not Bill O'Reilly. What was that guy's name?
It was
Georgia Leary.
George
George
O'Leary, wasn't it?
O'Leary. George
Yeah.
O'Leary coached UCF team, and we lost. And I packed my horn up and this at the Sousa truck, and the buses were all the way over. And I was like having this kind of moment of introspection about like, oh, we lost 6-7, by the way. Um, and I was having this moment of introspection. Yara looks like she just saw a snuff film. I was having this moment of introspection about like, hey, the wins don't matter. Um, I'm gonna walk across this big parking lot and get into the Sousa bus and be around my friends. And like really the meaningful part of Redcoats is family. And that's what being a Georgia fan is all about. And I'm having this thought to myself, and I'm like walking across and I have like a quarter mile to go to the buses, and I see the lights of the buses, and the bottom falls out. I'm talking like torrential December downfall of
It was
rain. And
so cold.
it was so cold, and it was
It was
raining
so
at like
cold.
39 degrees and on my wool uniform. And I just like walked into the bus like Charlie Brown. Like, and then I sat down and they're like, hey man, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know. And I just sat there silently all the way back to the hotel. And that's how my college career in Redcoats ended. And then
Yeah.
you're like, how do I deal with a UGA loss? And
The
I was like,
Liberty Bowl. Was
I
it,
was
let me
in,
ask you a question. Was it two field goals or was it a touchdown with an unsuccessful extra point?
Yara,
Two
it was
You
field
two
goals.
know?
field goals. It was two field goals. We were happy when we scored a field goal in the fourth to get within 1 point of UCF. Yara,
It was the
I
third
went
quarter.
in the third quarter. Yara, I went to an Independence Bowl and we played Texas A&M when they were in the Big 12. I went to an Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I was happy to go, Yara. I was happy to be there because we got to go to the Shreveport casino. Yara, I've seen things you wouldn't even believe.
I'm scared.
Gunship on fire off the shoulder of Orion. All these memories gone like tears in rain. Yara, you don't even know. I'm like an android whose body is dying.
I'm not even scared of you. I'm scared of the Liberty Bowl with the Is that that's so
Yara, when
scary.
I got to Georgia, we lost to Georgia Tech my first 3 years in college.
What the You guys are scaring me.
Yara,
You guys are scaring me.
Yara, in 5 years, I had one win against Florida, and I was happy.
I was
We never beat Florida,
I was
and
the
yeah,
same, Nathan.
Yeah.
So I was 98 to '02. Which by the way, aging myself, I actually went to school with Kirby Smart for
Whoa,
one
that's
semester.
cool.
My freshman, the fall, like the football season my freshman year was Kirby's last. Uh, you know,
Whoa.
so not the best team, but it did have Kirby Smart, Champ Bailey. Like there were a lot of great players on the team. Um, but yeah, so yeah, we lost to Tech those first 3 years. But hey, I'm glad I made the fifth because my fifth and final year was the first time here's this, Yara, when I was a senior, or my redshirt senior year, as I like to call it, was actually the first time Georgia ever qualified and went to the SEC championship game. Uh, and we won
Yeah.
it. But that was the first time we'd ever been.
Yara, I
2002.
never went to an SEC championship game as a student.
The fuck?
Yeah.
That-
Yeah, Yara. The year after I got out was the 2012 SEC championship, the most heartbreaking loss in modern UGA history, arguably. I mean, maybe, well, arguably one of the most heartbreaking losses. And
Yeah.
I was sad that I didn't get to be there for that.
So
Is
Nathan, you were
everything
6 to 10?
okay, guys?
6 to
I'd like
10, yeah.
Okay.
these are the good old days, Yara. These are the good old days.
What do you mean
Well,
by good? They were old days.
okay,
I don't know if I would consider
No,
them
I will
now
good.
say,
today is the good old days.
Yara, I will
You're living in the
say,
good old days.
You're living in the good old days.
there
So
is,
10 years from now, you'll look back and be like,
in
when were the
defense,
good old days?
I would like to provide a defense of mediocre football briefly. Um, it is way easier to have a normal, well-adjusted life when your team is not good. Way
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, we lost to Kentucky. Oh, whatever. I'm going to spend time with my wife. Like, yeah, that's fine. Heartbreaking loss to Georgia Tech, not a big deal. Yara, if we lost to Georgia Tech now, they'd have to check me into a mental institute. Like, I would get involuntarily committed if we lost to Georgia Tech now. And if when we lost to Paul Johnson right after I graduated, we lost to Paul Johnson in Georgia Tech, and I was sitting at a cigar bar, and I just had the rest of my day was a good day.
What
Now,
the
Yara,
fuck?
now I can't drink on game days. That's my pathos. There's a part of me that misses when we were 8-4 because at least I could I don't miss it, but I do yearn for a time when I wasn't so fully committed to my own mental illness.
See, the problem with me though was back in those days, I would still convince myself that this is the year, every year.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I was one of those guys. I've definitely been accused of being a Disney dog. I've definitely been called a Disney dog. Yeah, yeah.
Really?
That's what Yara, back when we didn't win all the time, those who thought we were going to were called Disney dogs, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, they were.
Oh.
I would
That's
say I
me.
Because
was
it was always a happy story. It was
Yeah.
never bad.
Yeah.
Do you remember I think this account doesn't exist anymore, but do you guys remember Nihilism Dog?
Yeah.
Or he has
Oh
a
yeah, yeah.
post.
Yeah.
But
UGA Nihilist.
UGA Nihilist.
UJ Nihilist, yeah. UJ Nihilist, when he was first posting, when we first had this, Yara, this might have been when you were on Twitter with UGA, but there was this guy who had this thing called UGA Nihilist, and just everything he posted was about the heat death of the universe. It was not just the dogs are gonna lose. It was even in this win, one day we'll all be in the dirt and our accomplishments will be forgotten, kind of thing. But
I
I
actually
remember
had to mute that account when we started getting really good because it would
Yeah.
frustrate me.
yeah. I just vividly remember that he started following us, and we had some fun exchanges. I liked him. I don't know who he is. I think it was it was an anonymous account, but I do remember vividly there was a moment where I was like, do you like us because you're looking for fodder for why things could go wrong?
Right.
You're like,
Yeah.
this is a new source of data for how this trade could go off the tracks, I think.
Right.
What do
UJ
y'all think?
Nihilist's most recent tweet just cracked me up. You might be excited or even happy about the result tonight, talking about the Texas game, but one day soon we'll all be dead, forgotten remnants on a dead planet spinning aimlessly in a cold and barren universe.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the
no,
account's still around.
that
It is still
he's a
around.
genius. He's a freaking genius.
Oh
Um,
man.
or she. I don't know. I
Fair.
What do we think about the rest of the season? Where are we at? Where's the head at?
Ooh.
Well, I'm taking this season great now because I know that an 8-4 season happened to you guys. Or worse,
Six
a
and
season where
seven.
you went to Memphis to play in the
Uh,
Liberty Bowl
I went to
and you
Memphis to play in
lost
the
to
Liberty Bowl, and it was not the worst bowl I went to as a student.
there we
what
go.
the you guys talking about that kind of reminds me of when I went to the Mississippi State game, I went with my really good friend Sage, who just graduated from, I hope she doesn't mind that I'm saying her name, but she won't. But she just graduated from Mississippi State and she was just coming to see the game and she was like, "Yeah, I know we're going to lose, but it's still going to be a really great time."
Right.
And yeah, she had a fun time and she cheered for the Mississippi State Bulldogs and she did not bring her cowbell, but she cheered for them anyway. And, they did lose. But something she said when we were trying to walk back home, like, really resonated with me. And she said something like, we only lost by 10. We did better than I thought we would.
Mm.
What the do you mean you only lost by 10? What do you mean? We,
Uh,
God, we lost to Alabama and I had to sit in like my room and think for the next few days. I
yeah.
oh my God, it was so I was like sobbing upset. When we lost to Alabama in 2021, I was sobbing and Jameson Williams laughed in my face, but that's a story for another day. But oh my God, I have beef
Someone
with
someone currently on this Zoom call texted me the other day and said, "Good news, Jameson Williams just got suspended for violating the NFL PED rules." And it
Did he
wasn't
really?
John or Jim. He's
he
he really did.
Listen,
uh,
he
I
laughed
didn't
at
see
me in
that.
my face, and that is my villain origin story. I hate Alabama. I
wild.
hate Alabama.
Wild. I
Oh my God.
I feel good about the season, about the rest of it. I mean, I think I mean
We're
I
coming up on 4-year anniversary since anybody not named Alabama has beaten Georgia.
yeah.
And I am a firm believer in as long as Kirby Smart is the head coach, we're going to be in just about every game because he's built this engine, and the only team that can beat Georgia is Georgia, even when we play Alabama.
Yeah.
God, especially when we play Alabama.
Right.
Here's
Right.
the thing. This is the kind of what I'm about to say is the kind of thing that gets clipped out by opposing fans after we lose. But whatever, that's fine. I've been hoisted on that petard before. But I genuinely think that Tennessee has a Mickey Mouse offense that beats up on bad teams.
Yeah.
And I think Nico
Felt that
is
way about
really,
Texas.
yeah, I think Nico is really good, but I don't think that they have really good defense, but I just don't think their offense is going to light us up. And yeah, I think that we'll probably be, um, I think it'll probably be a pretty close game just because they have a good defense. But I feel pretty good about Tennessee. And I mean, old Joey Freshwater, you never know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah.
But Kirby Smart's,
I think Kirby's got their number. Like
yeah, he has
he's
pretty good
figured out their
history.
offenses.
Well, and
I
yeah, go
good.
ahead.
No, you're good. I was gonna go on something else. Kind of.
Historically, as in like the last 9 years or whatever it is, Kirby Smart has, generally speaking, a better. His teams usually have like the best success rate, EPA, yard per play margin, everything in the first and third quarter, because I think he's just is really good at in-game adjustments and he's really good at, um, pre-game just planning. And that I think was what was so shocking about the Alabama game. I'm not sure that another team has that's not named like Ohio State has the talent to do that to Georgia, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I was going to go into was, and I don't want to go on my like anti, um, get on my old man rant about 12 team playoffs and conference expansion. So I won't totally go into that. But what we joked about before the season, and I'm starting to see it could potentially pan out, was like, man, if you get that number, if you finish third in the SEC, not a bad place to be. And right now, like you could argue, like if Georgia, there is a world where Georgia wins out, doesn't make the SEC championship game. So like the between Texas A&M and LSU are there both ahead of Georgia right now. There's a scenario where I think it's if LSU loses that game, then but then beats Alabama and wins out, then in theory it could still be A&M and LSU for a rematch. In that scenario, and Georgia wins out, we're number three. That probably puts us at the 5 seed in the playoff, which is a fantastic spot because then you get the 12 seed in the opening round. You don't need to worry about not having a bye in the playoff because you've already got a bye from not playing in the SEC championship game. So that would kind
I
of be a wild scenario.
Do you want to know? I'm trying to think about what I can talk about this without getting fired.
Okay.
Let me tell you something about that game. If we have an on-campus UGA game,
Hmm.
if you're wondering what the plan is for an on-campus UGA game in the middle of December, the answer is that nobody knows. And
Okay.
that I have been told by people that I think would know. And I also don't think that's a UGA problem. I don't think that's like some scandal at UGA. I think that it is easy to forget the logistical nightmare that is putting on a college football game.
Hmm.
And if I know this is like such a contrarian take, but I actually don't mind the 12 team playoff. I just don't think that the home games are a good idea. They
Hmm.
put a lot of money into the community. And so I guess they are like a net positive. But I like the things that you have to do to make a college football game happen that aren't happening on the field are so massive that it like hurts my head and I deal with like a tiny little fraction of it and I'm not even in charge of it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and there's so much of a college football game that is like a mechanical Turk where you just like you wind it up and you wind it up and you wind it up and it just sort of like goes, right? People are just the right place because this is when college football season is every year and this is the day college football season happens. And we have enough parking because this is when that happens, and the dorms are open for the kids because here's when the dorms should be open. And I mean, dorms, concessions, like tailgating permits, like there are police at every Georgia game from 15, 20 different jurisdictions in Georgia, right? There are, and it's not just like GSP, local police sheriffs. It's like school police are there, GBI is there. I mean, the nerve center for Georgia's in studio or in game footage is in it's behind the Hartman Fund. If you're up on the like club level, there's like that Hartman Fund lounge, and back
Hmm.
behind there, in this like really creepy looking door, is like where all of the feed goes through. Those people have like full-time jobs. Like there's just so much.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I I do think you're right. I think being that like for the football team Georgia, being the 5 seed would be a good thing. For
Yeah.
everyone involved in making a Georgia football game happen, being a 5 seed is like an emerging anxiety nightmare.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think the other thing, the thing that like that where I cringe about like even like those words coming out of my mouth of like, hey, it'd be a good thing to miss the SEC championship game. Like
Yeah.
that hurts me. Like,
Yeah.
because to me, like that was always a thing. And I go back to like this was like what Mark Richt used to say, right? It's like your goals are layered. So it used to be first goal, win the East, right? Second goal, win the SEC. Third goal, win back then it was like win your bowl game or whatever. But like, and it's different now. And my concern was always like, uh, I don't know, like, you want to win, etc. But are the coaches like in the way the sport has morphed, it's like you want to win the national championship and winning the conference championship isn't as big of a factor in that
Yeah,
anymore. I don't think.
I think the watermark is going to be you want to be in the playoffs. because I don't think
Yeah.
people are going to want that 5 seed for as long because I think the increasing parity, people are going to want that 5 seed until the 12 seed wins.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's fair.
it's not crazy. There have been fifth best college football teams in the nation that would lose to like Boise State. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
it's
right.
usually not going to happen, but it could happen.
Georgia being one of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yara's like, what?
Yara's like, what?
Yeah, I'm just here.
However, but the
What do
fifth,
you mean, guys?
yeah, we once lost to Boise State, and we wore hideous uniforms. Don't
Wait,
look it
y'all
up.
were serious? I thought you
Yeah.
were joking.
We lost to
Oh, hold
Boise
on.
State in
Let me find
the Georgia Dome.
Boise State UGA uniforms.
And
Did these?
Ashton Jeanty's presumable predecessor was not there. This was just normal
Correct.
Here we
Boise
go.
State from
Who
Indiana.
was the quarterback there? Was it Zelensky or something like that?
He was, wasn't
Yeah.
he? Was he still there that year? I guess he was.
There was
No,
some, they had
Zabransky
some
was there
quarterback.
the year we beat
It
Zabransky.
them
was.
in Athens. I think he was gone at that point. Yeah,
We
he would have been
had
gone.
these horrendous uniforms that were like
The
Y'all,
like
y'all,
Power
the
Rangers.
Yeah.
catalyst for all the hatred that is apparent with any uniform suggestion changes.
Let's talk about uniforms of Yara. Yara, what's your take on alternate uniforms for Georgia? Do you care?
um,
Do they interest you at all, or are you just like, yeah, whatever?
I like the silver pants. I think they're really nice. I don't think that the blackout is a super smart idea because every time we do that, I feel like we just flop. Like we enter the flop era.
Well,
So,
what?
You truly are a child of the Kirby Smart era.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no uniform
I
changes.
think on the one hand, I think UGA has like some of the better uniforms in the nation, and there are things about them that I think are like perfect. I do miss the like throwback whites that we had
Mhm.
that one year, the Vince Dooley whites
Yeah,
with the red
with the
pants.
red
I thought
pants,
those,
Red pants.
yeah,
the
those were
Arkansas
really
game.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really cool. There is, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, I know they own them and they're never going to use them, but
Mhm.
I don't know if you have seen the like UGA white football, like all white that they do for the recruits.
Oh yeah, like
I
with the
think those are
helmet.
pretty cool.
Yeah, even
Yeah,
like
the
the
white
helmets,
helmet.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think those
yeah,
are pretty cool. Um, I don't know. Personally, like I'm just like I'm not really a like much of a tradition guy in the sense that I think our normal uniforms are great, but like whatever, throw it out there. Like let's try.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're gonna have some stinkers. Like
Right. I always feel like, like when does a tradition start and what is quote unquote traditional? Because we didn't even have the Power G on the helmet until Vince Dooley, like in the 60s. Like we used to
yeah,
wear a silver helmet, and then there was a silver helmet with a block G on it.
yeah.
And
The
it
silver
wasn't until
helmet is really cool.
I think it is too. I mean, I would love like a homecoming throwback with a silver helmet with a
Yeah.
block G, but that's
I
just me.
I I have to say that I hope that my wife cannot hear this because this is like a stereotypical Nathan thing. I freaking love matte helmets. I love matte helmets and chrome helmets. And
Mm.
anytime we play a team with one of them, I will send her an image. And before the image loads on our chat, she'll be like, if this is a picture of another team's football helmet, like we are getting a divorce. Like we played Kentucky a few years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, and they had like they had all white, and they had like the chrome helmets with the blue stripe. And I
Yeah.
was like on the field pregame, like very creepily, just taking a picture of this guy's helmet, like up close, like 4 feet away from him. And my
Right.
wife was like, did you go on the field to get that picture? And I was like, look at how cool these helmets are.
Uh, that's
I like
great.
the textures.
Right. Right.
Kellen Moore was the quarterback, Jim.
Oh, Kellen Moore.
Oh yeah. Was he the one who beat did he beat Oklahoma?
That was actually the other guy. So
That was
Zabransky,
Zabransky.
Zabransky. Yeah, and that was so Zabransky was the quarterback when they came to Athens in 2005, right? Because that was
Mhm.
Shockley's first
That
start.
was the Shockley, yeah.
Yeah. And then the following year, Zabransky was still there, and that was the one when they beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, I think.
The Fiesta Bowl.
But yeah.
I'm
And
trying to
Because
think.
when they
the
came to
guy
Athens,
proposed to his girlfriend.
Right, yeah.
right, yeah. when they came to Athens was when they had I can't remember the coach's name now. The guy that ended up going to Colorado. But it was Peterson when they won the following year.
Peterson?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chris
Chris Peterson.
Peterson was the coach when they won that.
And Mike McIntyre, I think, was the guy who went to Colorado, right? Mac. He's the guy who
No,
yelled about
McElwain?
intramurals. No,
no,
he was at Western Michigan, um, originally.
he was the guy. He would like quote Yoda and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Have y'all ever been to Idaho?
no,
No.
no.
Idaho is how you imagine Utah to be. Idaho's beautiful too. Everybody thinks of
Flat,
Utah as
flat
be
and Mormon? I'm
no.
confused.
I was
Oh,
confused as well, Yara.
Dan Hawkins. Yeah, Dan
Dan
Hawkins.
Hawkins. Yeah.
Dan Hawkins, that's
Okay,
who it
here's
was.
the thing. Look, and no one wants to like go into Mormon church slander more than me, so like I'm ready to have that conversation. But um people think of Utah as being like, oh, there's just a bunch of weirdos out there and like it's like cultish and stuff. But if you go to Utah, it's like everyone's so nice to you, it's uncomfortable, and it's the most beautiful, clean place on earth, right?
Hmm.
Idaho is also beautiful. It's freaking gorgeous, but it is literally cultish. Like if you look up instances of paramilitary activity and domestic violence or domestic terrorism, there is a huge clump in northern Idaho. Like where was
Interesting.
Ruby Ridge happen? Where did Ruby Ridge happen? I went out there one
Hmm.
time on a work. I used to work at a egg processing machine shop. Um,
What?
Nathan, you did what?
yeah, so
This is Carrollton activities.
This
This
is
is
Carolyn
so my
activities.
my wow, I guess now we can get more. You want more Nathan lore? My best friend growing up, we met in like third grade. His name was Ethan. We went to UJ together. We were roommates the whole 5 years together. He was in Redcoats. He taught for a little bit. He was a science teacher, and then he left teaching, and he took over his dad's not took over, but he works with his dad. His dad owns one of the two or three places on the planet that like repairs, fabricates parts for, and services in use egg processing machines. Which, like, when you get eggs out of an egg house, there's like a huge process of like uh, sorting them, washing them, checking them for cracks, checking them for blood, and then packaging them. And it's like basically it's like a series of sort of like conveyor belt almost styles machines the size of like a warehouse. They're giant, right?
Hmm.
And and like big egg processing places will have like 5 or 6 lines running. So that's what his dad did. It was very lucrative because
Yeah.
they're like one of the two or three people that do this thing in the world, and like one of the only independent shops that do it. So basically I would go there over the summer and I would help them. Like I learned to run like a industrial level lathe and a CNC machine, and like how to assemble circuits and stuff, and but also and got paid really well in cash. But then the downside was sometimes I just cleaned egg that had been dried on something um for like 6 weeks for like a full day.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of handyman skills, but now if I spill scrambled eggs onto the stovetop, I have to leave the kitchen. Like I was flipping an omelet. This happened 2 days ago. I was flipping an omelet. I made Brenner for my wife, and I flipped the second omelet, and some of it like splashed over and got on the stove. And I was like, "You have to finish this omelet. I cannot be in here. I will like, I'm having a flashback because I have smelled things. Those were my two high school and college jobs. Was that I worked at an egg processing machine shop, and then I worked at a vet's office. So like
Hmm.
that's why I'm basically impossible to gross out now. And then my mom is a nurse midwife who has delivered thousands of babies, who had a really like, if you ask a question, you get a full scientific answer attitude. So there wasn't really room in my world growing up to be faint of heart because
Yeah.
like when you're 9 and you ask mom like what's an episiotomy, and she's like, oh, let me show you. I have like a dummy that shows that. You can't unsee it.
Now we know where you get it from.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, this was not. I was not made in a lab. This was grown. This is Georgia
Apples,
grown.
apples and trees.
I'm totally going to listen to Chapel Bell Curve in a different way after tonight. And I
Yes.
think that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
But I will say, once you have disassembled a machine that is like, once you've disassembled and reassembled like 150 egg scales, I can really work around the house pretty well. Like it's way easier to fix things around the house than it is to like, diagnose the problems in like a tiny circuit board that is like shutting down a warehouse size machine or
Mm,
whatever.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I
I
enjoy
didn't know
It,
that about you. This is Carrollton lore.
I grew
This
up
is
working.
superb.
My parents were both very well educated, but we grew up like basically working poor because my mom was a nurse midwife, which is a historically underpaid job, and my dad is a minister. And the thing about being a minister is that like the vast majority of ministers make very little money, and the ones who make money, it's like a tiny amount, make 90% of the money in the profession. Um, and I don't think my dad would be upset me saying that. Like it's like kind of a fully known thing. Like if you
mm.
are not a mega church pastor, you're really not making much money, and then you also have to pay self-employment taxes. Um, so like I am secretly white trash, is what I tell my students. Like when my parents got divorced, my mom moved to a place called Clem. Like we raised chickens. Clem's outside of Carrollton. Um, I didn't eat ground beef at home for like the first 20 years of my life because we just hunted. Like
Mm.
at my
Sick.
yeah, like I am confident I own more guns than anyone else on this recording channel. Like fully confident.
So
Like
you need to like go hunting with the players, like with
I would love that.
like with
Yeah.
Tate.
Yeah. I don't have the hunting land that we are a part of is in, oh my God, this is so white trash. The hunting club that we're a part of is in Alabama. Oh, do y'all, okay. I usually don't
No,
talk about this on
this
here.
I have family that is
My dad,
into this stuff.
so my dad, we're not really like black gun people. Like we're not like AR-15 people. Like my dad is like a marksman. And like my dad is like a real, like you hunt to fill the freezer. And if you're
Hmm.
going out for any other reason than filling the freezer, like you shouldn't be going out, basically. At my like wedding reception or my wedding rehearsal, we served wild boar that my dad had killed as barbecue. It was really good.
That
But
sounds amazing.
yeah, it was amazing. But my dad retired. It's kind of the first time in his life that he's had, a steady income and kind of has financial security in like a good way. Love it for him. And so, but his sort of like retirement midlife crisis gift to himself was that he was like, I'm gonna have a gun made. So 2 summers ago, we kept on going. We went to Jefferson like 6 or 7 times to go see his gunsmith. And we had this rifle like custom made that can go out. We've only gotten it out to 750 yards, but it can go up to 1,000. And then my dad and I started a silencer trust because you have to have a trust with the ATF and the feds to own a suppressor. Um, and so we bought 3 or 4 suppressors, and you have to have a trust so that if one member, the trust holder, my dad, when he dies, if I'm not on the trust, I have to give them back to the feds. Um, so
Hmm.
yeah,
I
and
did not know that.
the reason I'm confident I own more guns than anyone else here is because when my dad had his like maudlin moment when he turned 70, his reaction was to be like, "Hey, I need you to come to my house and we're gonna look at my gun safe and talk about like what guns do you get when I die and what guns I give to my friends
Hmm.
in one of my gun safes." Yeah, so
Gotcha.
I'm learning so much right now.
So
yeah,
much about
This is
Nathan that we didn't know.
yeah.
this is so cool.
Uh,
No, the
I'm
This is
tattoos.
the hard hitting
Yeah.
bi-week content that
Oh,
we were
ask me
all
whatever you
looking
want,
for.
man. The tattoos and the ear piercings are just so people won't think that I'm racist. Like I got my ears pierced so that people wouldn't see like a dude with a beard and a red Georgia polo and be like, that guy's probably pretty problematic. I'm just trying to like I'm trying to virtue signal to people that you can trust me to I'll hold your drink and be trustworthy about it. Like that's what I want them to know. And then I
that's
don't
great.
tell them all of that. But it is great
Excellent.
with that's why I've been very comfortable working in commerce because I'm like, oh yeah, bow season started this weekend. When do you guys hunt? And I actually, it's not like,
So
like
I
I'm
didn't grow up
authentic.
there, but that's where like my mom's side of the family is from, where you're at, Nathan. So
Really?
my mom went to
Where?
Banks County. So
Oh, hell yeah.
my mom went to Banks County High School. Actually, my second cousin one's removed, I believe.
Do I really?
Sammy Brown. Like
Oh
that's my
yeah, I taught him. I was his ninth grade English teacher.
yeah. That I don't know him. His grandma and my mom are first
Hmm.
cousins. So
His
Now we
mom.
can blame Nathan.
yeah, everyone always blames me for Sammy going to Clemson. I'm like,
Um,
I don't know him.
oh, I have stories about that. His mom gave me all three of my COVID shots because she's the local pharmacist in Commerce. But oh, everybody in Commerce knew he was going. He went to Commerce his freshman year, and then his
Yep.
dad left Commerce. His dad was the coach there, and then he went to Jefferson with his dad.
Yep.
But everybody knew he was going to Clemson because his dad had been on staff at Furman, which is like functionally like a sister program to Clemson. Like structurally, they share a lot of stuff. But like
Hmm.
I knew he was going to Clemson like his freshman year. That was in the bag. Like that was always going to happen.
I tried to tell everyone that, but people don't listen.
I'm trying to
Uh,
think if I could tell a story about him, like if I'm going to be violating FERPA. I don't think I will. Okay,
we
this is
could.
really
I would
no,
say
no. This is appropriate, and this is something that happened to him. This is something that happened to him. So I had a kid who will remain nameless, who was, you know, had some issues. Really, really sweet kid who just loved Sammy Brown. And Sammy to his, well, I mean, Sam is whatever we called him, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Brown, to his everlasting credit, was just like so patient with this kid and so nice to him. Um, one day comes into my class his ninth grade year, and I'm like, because he was kind of a, kind of like just a ninth grade like boy, like he just could be silly, like he's really smart, really really smart kid, but he
yeah,
just kind of be dumb. I'm not saying he's dumb, but when you're in ninth grade, you can act dumb. So he comes in
been
one
there.
day.
I
Yeah,
remember.
right. Me too. Me too. I'm not above it. He comes in his ninth grade year, and I'm like, boy, why do you not have shoes on in my classroom? And I'm about to give him like sometimes as a teacher, you're like, I'm about to wind up on this son of a bitch. Like you were about to get both barrels. Like I'm so nice most of the time, but you're getting this one. And I was just like, yeah, I swear to God, if you don't get your horrible like crew neck socked feet off of my floor, I'm going to lose my mind. And this poor kid, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. So and so stole my shoes. So this kid who really liked him, like I guess he just wanted his shoes, but like not in a like he wanted to steal them way, but in a like I want a piece of this person that I like, kind of way.
Hmm.
And so this poor Sammy was just like such a sweet kid that he was just like, okay. And he was just like walking around without his shoes.
Was
And I was like, oh my God, hold on. And so I had to go like find the other kid and be like, give me those shoes. Smell this horrible man's feet for an hour and a half.
high school, high
Yeah.
school. But yeah,
Good
so
little high school.
that's where that side of my family. That's where
Banks
we're
County
from.
is
Yeah.
every
So
redneck
Homer,
count.
like Homer.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
like they're right by Homer.
Every redneck county has another county that is adjacent to them that they think is more redneck. Jackson thinks that Banks is more redneck. Banks think that Rabun is more redneck, and it's just like a chain.
Yeah.
When I was in Carroll County, we thought Harrelson was more redneck, and they're like, "Oh, we're not Hicks. It's those people in Harrelson County."
Now I
It's
don't.
like Fayette County, where I'm from, in Coweta.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, those idiots in Noonan, they don't have running water.
No, I don't think this is still the case because I think it got surpassed. But when I was little, the world's largest Easter egg hunt used to be in Banks County. There was a farm in Banks County that used to host the world's largest Easter egg hunt, but I think they got surpassed at some point.
The reason that Yara earlier said this is Carrollton lore is because Yara grew up in Douglasville. And if you live in Douglasville, Carrollton is like the redneck hick town. I went to
Yeah.
Yara's hometown to go to Arbor Place because they had a Barnes and Noble and Carrollton didn't.
Okay.
Arbor Place was the fancy area down there, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
How did you guys view Griffin?
I did
Oh,
not think of Griffin at all.
Griffin Griffin
I
was the
don't think
town.
about you at all.
The way we viewed Griffin was as the town you drive through to get to the airport.
Okay.
I think Douglasville and Carrollton both have like I-20 supremacy because I think Noonan has like I-85 has like an upjumped like I-85 privilege as well.
We had to drive through Noonan to get to to get to the yeah Noonan and Sonoya.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
So
well,
what are we thinking? Like for this year? I'm gonna just briefly make everyone talk about football.
Well, I was just about to say we could probably do the pick'ems for this week or whatever. Look
Yeah,
at some
let's
of the
do it.
games that are coming
Yes,
up.
I would love to.
I
okay,
just learned
I say that as though I have that prepared.
I can pull
Oh,
it
I
up.
can get it up. Yeah.
I learned more about Georgia in the past hour than I think I did in the past 8 years that I've lived here. This was crazy.
That is amazing.
Wow.
I love that. I love
Navy
that.
Notre Dame. That's one. That's fun.
Ooh, that is fun.
Man, see, this is where, and our you guys are aware of the Army and Navy could both go undefeated and play each other twice stuff
Yeah, yeah,
with the
yeah.
conference championship game.
The stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, so I mean, I want Navy to win because that would just be so insane to me if that comes to fruition.
They
And I
they
just don't
got
know anything about
Yes.
Notre Dame, man. Like, I'm gonna go Navy.
hold on. I can pull some numbers.
Yeah,
I can
I'm gonna go
I'm,
Navy on that one.
It says as of right now, Notre Dame is a 12.5 favorite over Navy. That's at least what I'm reading.
yeah, our numbers have Notre Dame as being about 19 points high better than Navy,
Hmm.
but let me see what the actual score. Notre
This is
Dame 36, Navy 17, that's SP plus.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm gonna go Notre Dame. Like Navy ain't played nobody.
Yeah.
Navy ain't playing nobody, Paul, or
Well,
whatever it is.
historically, that's not true. In 2024, the Navy fans out there are being like, what about the Japanese Imperial Navy? You fool. How dare you forget about Yamamoto? Um, all right. I think
This year.
the big SEC game is LSU Texas A&M, right?
Yeah. I got A&M on that one.
Jim?
mm, I'm actually trying to pull up my thing that I look at.
It's at A&M, right?
I believe yes.
Yes.
It is at A&M.
If it were in Death Valley, I would have a different answer, but
Give me LSU because I like them more. I think that they're so cool. I like their Tigers. I like the way that they say
Mm.
EAUX. I had to spell it in my head, sorry.
Yeah.
Let the
Okay.
bears play net.
I had to think about it. I like them more than I like Texas A&M. I'm going
You like the
LSU.
vibes? The vibes are
Yes.
way better with LSU for
Oh my
sure.
God, yes. They have a tiger in their campus and they treat it humanely. That is so cool.
You want
It's
to
like a
see
pet.
you want to see some culture shock? Watch any other band around Texas A&M's band.
Mm.
Other bands look at Texas A&M's band the way that people who don't know about marching band look at marching bands, where they're like, "Oh, that's cool. I don't understand what's happening right now, but that's cool." That's how other band kids are to Texas A&M. It's the most different band in the big in at the FBS, like than anybody else.
In what way? Like how could you as a a non-ball knower, non band knower, like what does that mean?
That's true. Yar and I are not ball knowers. We are band knowers. That is for sure. Well, there's basically okay. There's two modern traditions of marching band. There's
Okay.
core style bands and traditional bands. Okay, if you want to be reductive, it is basically like white bands and HBCU bands, right? Our core style bands are HBCU bands. Traditional bands are HBCU bands. White bands are, your core. That's a huge very reductive, but that's your general rule. So like Southern, FAMU, those are like traditional style bands. UGA, Michigan, Texas, those are core style bands.
Mm.
All
Mhm.
of them come from the same birthplace, which was that there was a time in the history of higher education in America, and I actually interviewed a musicologist about this, but last year. But there was a time in the history of music education or music or education in America where basically every school had a corps of cadets. Like every school had a robust military program. A lot of that was because, you know, before the World War I and before World War II, during both of those wars rather, and then after them you had like programs that were pressed into service, like
Yeah, the
UGA had
line
like a
band.
naval flight academy or whatever,
Mhm.
that then continued on afterwards and turned into modern ROTC. So the birthplace of modern marching band is basically just like parade bands, like military parade bands. Okay, every other band pretty much in the nation at the FBS level, and I kind of think at FCS level, but I'm not sure enough about that to say it out loud. But every other band at the like formerly Division 1 level is one of those two, is either core or traditional. Texas A&M is the only old school 1900s military parade band in the nation.
Hmm.
Their marching style is like straight 1915 military marching. Like they have a very limited repertoire, like, and this is not talking crap, this is just the difference. Like, the Redcoats have like 60, 70 tunes that we can play if we reach deep, right? um most like Texas probably has like 60, 70, 80, right? Even FSU, who plays a lot of the war trant, they probably have 40 or 50 they could play, right? uh Texas A&M has like five. Like
Hmm.
that is not me talking crap. Like, genuinely, they have like, when we played Texas A&M when I was in band, we went to a, and I kind of respect this. We went to like a, not battle of bands, but like a pep rally where their band was at, and we were going back and forth, and it would be like the announcer would be like, "Oh, let's hear from the Redcoats," and we'd play something that was like, "Let's hear from Texas A&M's band." I can't remember what they're called, and they'd play something, and after like five songs, they left because that was all the songs they played, and like their halftime shows are just like a rearrangement of several of those songs. Like, um, but they're what they do is so different than everybody else. It's really impressive. But
Hmm.
just like Yara and I could not be in Texas A&M's band. Yara and I could probably go to most bands in the nation and muddle through and be speaking the same language. Generally, even if it was a different tradition, even if we were at an HBCU, like we could probably figure it out and like generally be like not embarrass ourselves. We would be babes in the wood at Texas A&M's band. We would have no idea what was going on.
Interesting.
If you Nobody does what they do, and I don't know how they do it.
To put it in like college football terms, is it like the triple option versus
No, no, no,
spread
no, no.
offense
See,
type thing?
that's the thing. Spread versus triple, that's HBCU versus FBS. They're like
Okay.
the Arkansas high school team that plays the A11. They're playing some
Okay.
like weird
Okay.
out there, like Mishkatonic, like they're like the team that's like, hey, you remember when football was more like rugby and the forward pass was illegal? Yeah,
Hmm.
well, none of this newfangled triple option stuff. We're gonna have a 10 on the line. Like that's
Got it.
Got it. Okay. I needed a football explanation.
Maybe someday we'll get to experience the Redcoats at A&M. Maybe if we ever play
uh,
there.
yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, the
Uh,
thing, what's weird too is like Army and Navy and Air Force's bands are not as much like that as Texas A&M's band, because their bands are all quite a bit smaller and are more like, when they play halftime shows, but they're more like ceremonial, like military bands, like modern military bands. Texas A&M is the only band that does Texas A&M. Like there's just
yeah.
nothing like it in the world.
Sounds on brand.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they stick to type.
Uh,
What other games do we got?
I'm gonna go with A&M, by the way, on that one. They're actually
I
favorite.
like I
I don't
like
know.
Nussmeier. I just think if LSU has a pulse on defense, they'll win. I don't know
What's
if that will happen. That's a
yeah.
big if.
The thing that scared me, I was just looking at like the numbers that we keep. Look, A&M's defenses gives up a lot of explosives, looks like.
Yeah, they do.
So that scares me. But I'm still gonna
A&M
go with them.
A&M is more consistently good at everything than LSU in the advanced metrics.
Hmm.
And LSU is really bad against the pass. But A&M is also just like not great passing the ball. Um, I don't know. I feel like the highs are higher with LSU. Like LSU is the 10th ranked team in the nation in EPA per pass, and the 93rd ranked team in the nation in EPA per rush. Whereas like Texas A&M is just all mid, like, and
Hmm.
LSU is like peaks and valleys. So
Yeah.
probably I should pick Texas A&M, but if LSU wins, it'll be because they pass their way out of it, I think.
Yeah, chaos pick.
Yeah. Nuss
Yippee!
Nussmeier is good.
He is good. I agree. I'm with you there. I'm with you there. There's
Man,
a
this
couple there's a couple other good games this weekend.
Missouri, Alabama.
Yeah, Missouri, Alabama. Yeah.
um
That's at Alabama. Bama's favored by 13 and a half.
I I have a hard time. I feel like whenever I pick a game where Alabama is involved, it's like when someone asks you to say something nice about your ex, and you're like, son of a bitch. Like, can I talk about this in a
Right.
um
Right.
Bama
Missouri
is
is fraudulent.
Agreed.
yeah, I think the Missouri has a very good defense. Um they might statistically be the best side of the ball um out there. Like no joke. Like Bama is very good on offense, but they're very bad at third and fourth down success. Like they're only okay at rushing the ball efficiently, right? But Missouri is just good on defense. Like pretty much every aspect of defense Missouri is good at. But then you have to balance that against the fact that like obviously the talent ceiling is higher at Alabama. If Nick
Mhm.
Saban were at Alabama, you would say like, oh, well, Alabama just lost. They're going to win by like 40.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I don't
I'll
know,
take
man.
I'll take Alabama there, but I think Missouri's fraudulent.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you, JP.
What about you,
I
Yara?
my
Which one
heart.
which one has the best vibes?
Okay. So Alabama logically sounds like the better option, especially because at the end of the day, they are Alabama. This is what happens. They are playing at home. My heart emotionally says Missouri finds a way because, man, that's also because I'm really biased because I want Alabama to suffer so bad. I hate Alabama. Oh my God, I'll crash out. But
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I love that pick because I would love to see Alabama fans, the Bama Bros. I would love to see them completely melt down.
Here's the thing. And this is why our podcast works, is because I need someone to make me not just talk about numbers the whole time. And Yara needs someone to keep her from like crawling into someone's wall and like assassinating them at night or whatever.
yeah, he
I,
he stopped me from going further into Mike Bobo's installation the other day. I'm really grateful for
Yes.
that. Thanks, Nathan.
Yes.
Alabama
From
or
going full Idaho.
yeah, no, full
Oh
on
my
Ruby
God.
Ridge. She was like, we were 2 weeks away from a Waco compound kind of incident where it's like local woman holds Mike Bobo hostage, FBI involved or whatever. But
Is
Oh.
Craig crazy? Like, jeez.
for real. I think that Alabama will probably eke one out, but I think Missouri's defense is real and that they just are not probably going to have a good enough on offense. The thing to me that is significant is that Alabama is just not it on defense.
Mhm.
Alabama does some things well on defense, but they don't really convert third and fourth downs very well on offense or defense. And Missouri is very good at getting you off the field in third and fourth down, and they're pretty good at um, getting at being efficient and completing third downs offensively. So I think the path to Missouri winning is if they stay on schedule, um, then they can just get Bama off the field. I think that's what you have to do. They don't really have a running back right now, but they don't have like a name brand running back, but they're 29th in the nation in EPA per play when rushing, which is pretty good. They add points to their predicted final score every time they run, which is actually impressive.
Hmm.
Um, there's a path for Missouri here. I think more of a path than you would think that if you just like looked at the names of the two teams than the talent. But I think they just have to play like a really clean game, and that's hard to do when Ryan Williams might just like weekend at Bernie's his way into 3 touchdowns. I think that kid like watches like in between series he like watches TikToks, and if he sees a thirst trap he like all the blood leaves his head and he passes out, and then he wakes up like with the ball in his hand in the end zone. He's like, oh, like where am I? Like um
Yeah. That sounds about right.
he's just that kind of talented.
Yeah.
Something else I think we need to look for in this game is whether Alabama's shirts are tucked in. I think that could be a really good um deciding factor. We
Well,
need to check if their shirts are tucked in.
here's
Do
the
they
hard
commit
hitting
to it?
here's the hard hitting question. Here's the hard hitting question. Inquiring minds want to know for the three of you.
Mm.
Does it matter what your coach wears on the sideline on game day?
Like matter in a sense that like I want Kirby to look a certain way, or
Do you
matter
guys
is
know? I might be referencing something that you guys are not aware of. There was a kerfuffle on the Bama internet,
Yeah, I've
starting
seen
with the
this.
Vandy
oh
loss,
They don't like
about how
the shirt he was wearing or something,
yeah,
right?
Kalen DeBoer wears like a deep V like long sleeve fishing shirt to every game, and they do not like that.
Yeah.
okay. So I have a corollary here. So Manchester United soccer moment here for British Bulldog. Manchester United had a very famous coach named Sir Alex Ferguson, and he was very much the Nick Saban of his era. Um, M Manchester United won everything in the 90s, right? So like
Mhm.
he would always wear the same outfit. Matter of fact, there was a guy that was his sole job was to bring Sir Alex's his quarter zip that he would wear on the sideline under on top of his suits and stuff. The guy that they replaced him with after he retired and he got to pick his successor kind of thing. The guy that they replaced him with would wear tracksuits and stuff, and like there was definitely a vibe check that was going on amongst Manchester United fans about what he was wearing on the sideline.
Hmm.
So I definitely think that there's that's definitely something that exists out there in the world.
It's your aura, you know?
Yeah, your
It's
aura.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's the vibe that you want to present yourself with to
The
the general
women,
public and to your team.
one thing that I have learned in my life from the women around me who love me and the, not straight people around me who love me is that there's nothing respectable about a middle-aged man wearing a t-shirt. Like there's just no way to style or be attractive enough out of the way. Like look at a picture of like Brad Pitt wearing a t-shirt. You're like, "Oh, yeah, he still has abs. That's great." What about the rest of him? I don't know, he's just a white guy, right? So like I think that the world has taught me that if I leave the house, I must not just be wearing a t-shirt. Like I have to do something
Hmm.
else. And
Mm.
I think Kalen
Mm.
DeBoer apparently, Kalen DeBoer, who spent quite a bit of time in Idaho, the truth is out there, y'all. Um,
He has no part of Southern culture. That was actually one of the knocks that I get. Like when they hired him, I'm like, dude, this guy has no connection to the South. He has no idea about our culture. Like
Hmm.
there's a reason why Kirby Smart has, polos. Like he literally sets fashion, fashion plays every time he wears a different polo.
I think that
Yeah.
there is something to it in the sense that like I don't know how to say this without being like mean to middle-aged white men because I feel like that's like my word. I can do that as one. But you have to play your audience, right? Like
Yeah.
Yara and I's audience is like elder millennials and Gen Zs who like, did too many drugs in college, right? But like Kirby Smart's audience is future Republican senators of America. Like in an unironic way. How many state senators of Georgia do you think Kirby personally knows? Like it's in the double digits. Like and I do think like part of being a good coach, I mean, all satire aside, like part of being a good coach is knowing like how to work. Like you are a politician, right? Like you
Hmm.
have to, like, I think even Kirby Smart's awful haircut is intentional.
Yes.
Right.
I want
Right.
to also reference, I think, and this is gonna be a deep cut for me. Y'all are gonna be so proud. So Kirk Cousins, right? He was at Minnesota, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, even the way that when you say it, it's like, oh, Minnesota, like oop and all of that, it's up there. And then he came down here and he started being the quarterback, and immediately at first it was a little rocky, but then he started getting it and he started talking about swag surfing. And you
Yes.
can see now even when he goes to the press conferences, the way that he dresses is different. The way that his like mannerisms and everything, it is different in a way that it is appreciative of the culture that he has found himself in.
Can
Instead
I,
of, oh, what's up? What's
you
up?
go, no, finish your thought. I have something
Okay.
to add.
Instead of trying to like hold on to yourself from a different place that like the culture doesn't match and it's a little bit like of a clash. Kind of like what Kalen DeBoer's doing right now. He's kind of holding on to himself from, before from Washington or whatever, or I guess Idaho. Um, like I think you should do the Kirk Cousins thing and just like embrace it, you know?
In the same
I
way that if you are Palestinian, Lebanese, and Swedish, that you go to a school and in the Southeast, you should just like get into football, right?
exactly 1,000,000%. Like I'm
And
just
become a
here.
college football podcaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just here, I'm
I
having a grand
I
time.
unironically, Yara, I feel like I have, well, this is not what I was gonna say, but I feel like I have manipulated you because I have been talking to strangers and been like, so I have a college football podcast, and they give me this look, and then I pause and I'm like, my co-host is a non-white woman, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, 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 cool. But what I was gonna say is like Kirk Cousins' transition into Big Kirko reminds me of other lore you might not know about me, is that my junior and senior year of college, I lived basically for 4 years. I lived in this place called the Sousa House, which was this townhouse in East Athens. There was like three of them, and Sousaphones in the UJ Sousaphone section owned two of these three townhouses or rented them for like 15 years. And they were just like, imagine like the 2000s version of the Animal House. Okay. But my last 2 years in undergrad, a sousaphone moved into me who was a woman named Dynasty. It was like this like jacked black woman who we are still very close friends. But Kirk Cousins in Washington and Kirk Cousins in Atlanta is like me before and after I'd spent a year living with Dynasty. And she like made me, like, no joke, like one time she sat down and she was like, "You're gonna help me take my weave out." And I was like, is this okay? And she was like, "Shut up, sit down." Um, like I feel like he's learned so much, you know.
Yeah.
She was
Exactly.
she
And
was the one who was like, "You can wear your chain outside of your t-shirt." And I was like, "You can?"
exactly. This is what Kalen DeBoer, I think, is missing about coming to Alabama. This is why
He
so
needs a
many
dynasty.
Alabama, exactly. It's why so many Alabama fans have just like flat out rejected him. Besides the fact that he is following Nick Saban. Like even I saw from the minute they did that. Did you guys see the before and after pictures of the head coach office that
Oh,
were
yes.
everywhere on Twitter?
Yes.
That from the minute that showed up on the internet, I knew it wasn't going to be a good fit, and I think I'll stand on that take. I don't know if this is the best fit for Alabama, like post Nick Saban. They needed
What's
somebody who understands the Southern culture and who is able to embrace that wholeheartedly.
You know,
And I
there's
don't think
one
that he was
man.
it.
Here's the thing. There's one man who knows about winning in Alabama and Mississippi, who's had a consistent track record of success, who will never stand you in the back, Alabama. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about sitting U.S. Senator Thomas Tuberville.
Yeah.
Bring him back, baby. He's ready. The tide. You need an outsider perspective. You don't want an insider from Birmingham. Bring in an outsider from the notoriously morally upright place, Washington, D.C., former Cincinnati coach, former Auburn coach. You know him, you love him. He could probably get Cadillac Williams, Tommy Tuberville. He'll do a great job, guys.
It would
Have
make
you thought about
sense.
Houston Nutt? Maybe too. Just
Could
saying.
be.
Successful Ole Miss coach, Houston Nutt.
But that all of that is also why Kirby is so great for me. Why I love Kirby at Georgia so much is like he's one of us, like Yara, the things we were talking about that like you're amazed by, they're like, oh my gosh, Georgia lost to these teams. Like Kirby was playing on those teams when those things happened, and those things happened to him, and like he was like
Yeah.
forged in that fire. Like that's why he
That's
hates
why
Florida so much. Like that's
I
why
was
he
about to
hates
say that's
Tennessee.
what,
Like like
yeah.
so
That's why
yeah,
we beat
Yeah.
Florida by 30 instead of 20 every year. It's because Kirby
right,
Smart hates Florida so much.
yeah,
I
yeah,
also think the thing I like about Kirby, and this is gonna sound like I'm damning him with faint praise, but I'm really not, is like he is so boring. Like, like I think he's an interesting person, but I just mean like if there was like a scandal story about Kirby Smart's if there was a scandal story about Kirby Smart did something that wasn't permitted because he wanted to win, I'd believe that. But if there was
Mhm.
like an Urban Meyer style scandal about Kirby Smart, I would just be like, that would mean that he spent time not thinking about football. Like the
Right.
idea that Kirby Smart would end up at a sleazy club with someone who is not his wife is predicated on the idea that Kirby Smart would go somewhere that was not his house, a recruit's house, or the UGA football practice facilities. And I dig that about him. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the people say like when Michael Jackson, before he died, any news story about Michael Jackson, you just like automatically believe it because he lived such a nuts life. Like Kirby
Mm.
Smart's like the opposite of that. If you told me Kirby Smart switched from white bread to wheat bread, I would be like, show me the proof. If somebody was like, breaking news, Kirby Smart tried almond butter, I would be like, if you film him eating an almond butter sandwich, I will believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I dig that.
Ah,
You know who's not going to
yeah.
wear an OAN t-shirt? Kirby Smart.
He's
Looking at
just here.
you, Mike Gundy.
He's just here for a good time, you know? I think when I was also watching the Mississippi State game after he like accidentally pushed that, student athlete. Um, my friend, the Mississippi State friend Sage, she was asking me like, is Kirby Smart normally that passionate to where he just like is like pushing people? And I was like, honestly, he's always that passionate. He like played for Georgia. And I looked into it a little bit more. He like he grew up here. He went to
Mhm.
school here. The end goal, I think, for him was to be the head coach here. And that's why when everybody says like, oh, there's a rumor that he's gonna go to the NFL and he's gonna be the whatever coach, like the Cowboys coach or the Falcons coach or whatever. It's like, all right, yeah, sure. Bless your heart. It's not happening because he loves it here. And I'm not even saying that in like the parasocial relationship way. I'm saying that in like the fork found in kitchen, Kirby Smart found at Georgia. You know? That's
Mhm.
that's who he is. And
Well,
and
his dad was a high school coach, so like
yeah,
it's literally in his blood.
it
Yeah.
is. In the same way that it is in his blood and he is a dog, Kalen DeBoer is not a tide, an elephant. What the f do they
Here's
even
what I
call them?
here's
High
God, I hate
tide,
Alabama.
high
I
tide.
hate Alabama.
yeah, I'm doing some cursory research. Give me 1 second.
Oh my
Um,
God, Cook. We can talk about more picks.
no,
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know if
no,
there's
duh,
anything. We're having a mid-off between Iowa and Northwestern. I
The
wonder who's gonna win.
the
A
only other
mid-off.
one I saw was the real game of the week, Texas against Vanderbilt.
Give
Could
me
Texas
Vanderbilt.
could Texas have a Georgia hangover? I don't
Give me
think
Oh
so,
no,
Vanderbilt.
but it would be amazing.
there's another big game. Illinois, the Fighting Wills
That's true.
versus Oregon.
Illinois, Oregon, but I've got Oregon in that. I
Oregon's
don't.
gonna beat the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Here's
Mhm.
why I know Kirby is not gonna be the next coach of the Jets. The closest Chick-fil-A to the New York Jets practice facility is 33 minutes away. That shit ain't happening. Find me a map of Waffle House locations, and that is where Kirby Smart will go. If Kirby
Mm.
Smart cannot go to Marker 7 Seafood and get a fried seafood platter, he will not live there. I fully believe that.
Nice.
Spectacular.
Can he take his wife out to 5 and 10 on their anniversary? No. He's not going there.
Right. Right. Yeah, they're not leaving Athens. And
Mhm.
and none of the former Georgia coaches leave either. Everyone just stayed in Athens.
Why would you? Hey, do you guys live in Athens? Where do y'all live? Not to don't dox yourself, but like, do y'all live in the Atlanta
Yeah.
area or
I'm in North
Cut this
Carolina,
out.
actually.
really?
Yeah, I'm on the north side of Charlotte in Concord, North Carolina. I'm not far from like Charlotte Motor Speedway that way.
Charlotte Motor Speedway. God,
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
movie.
I'm in West Cobb,
Oh,
Marietta.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, Marietta people. I just work there. I'm only tangentially related to Marietta.
How does
I
Douglasville view Marietta?
Like super, like pretty rich, pretty bougie, I
It's a
think.
bougie. Okay, that's
Yes.
fair. That's
You
fair.
guys got the nice mall.
Oh my God, yes, you do. And you have Costco. God,
Yeah.
don't get me started on Costco. I love
Oh,
Costco
you
so
guys
much,
got
and I'm
We have
Costco with
two
the
so
liquor
jealous.
store.
Costco's.
You have
Don't
We
you
have
have the
two
one.
one that
Costco's.
Yes, you do, and I'm so jealous. You have the one at Town Center, and you have the one at Well, I don't know if you can at Cumberland Mall, I guess, but you have the other one over there, and I'm so jealous. And you'll have a Whole Foods, and it's so great. I want
so
to live
y'all
in
have
Marietta
one
so
that is
bad.
like
The
a
Whole
liquor.
Foods and a Sprouts. Yeah, we
And
don't
you
have
have
a
the
liquor
Costco
store.
with the liquor store? No, you don't. There's only
No,
one
we
in Georgia.
don't.
I forget where it is.
Yeah, it's over in Perimeter.
You know
I
where it's not? In Athens, and this is where they are missing out financially.
hmm.
Costco
Mm.
marketing, talk to me right now.
Can I
I
tell
think
you
it's I
something
think
that I
it's a
think is
liquor law.
weird?
It's a liquor law.
Yeah, it is. Can I tell you something that is weird about Athens? That like my Athens galaxy brain theory is that like there aren't any good sports bars in Athens. You guys notice that? Like I like
There,
Blind Pig. I like Blind Pig. It's not a sports bar. Like it's a good restaurant and it's like a fun dive or whatever, but like where can you go with like 85 TVs and hot wings?
there, yeah,
It
there,
used to be.
there used
It
to be a
used to
place out
be.
Atlanta Highway. Um,
A
it
Hooters?
wasn't, it wasn't
I would take a
downtown.
Hooters. I would take a Hooters, honestly.
There was
We used to.
something
We
that
used to
we
go to
used,
Wild Wing.
Well, there was a
yeah.
Wild Wing over on Alps, right?
No, Wild Wing Cafe used to be in downtown Athens when I was in college.
Oh, okay.
Also,
But like
when
there's
when we were
not
there, Blind Pig was somewhere else.
yeah, no, I was over on next to the river, right? On
Yeah,
the like North Campus. I miss that old horrible place.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
One of the most health unsafe restaurants in the world. But what a fun place to go.
Oh, I
But
love
like
it.
there's not a place where you can go watch like 20 NFL games you don't care about at the same time in Athens. I
Yeah,
just
I
feel like
can't.
that's an untapped market.
Yeah, there was a place. I can't remember what it was called, but it was out Atlanta. It wasn't like downtown. It was out Atlanta Highway somewhere. But I can't remember what it was called. We used to go there, like on Sundays sometimes. We
Clay and
used
I
to,
would used to watch games at Taco Mac when it was like a new thing.
yeah.
That's how old we are.
Nice. I
Uh,
would go to Cutters used to have $1 Yunglings like 3 nights a week. And then Polly's used to have $1 Yunglings every time the Braves would play. Well, the Braves play 162 times a year, so it was like
yeah.
pretty good.
That's
Y'all
Anyway,
had
amazing.
FOMO. Y'all
and
had
now
sucky football, but you had great alcohol prices.
Oh,
What?
yeah.
well, I to be fair,
Do they
alcohol
still
got
do?
more
Do they still do dollar drinks at Bourbon Street?
I actually think
They
dollar
do
drinks are
what?
their dollar drinks are illegal now, I think. Like it's
Are they
not
really?
legal. Yeah, it is as a help. I forget what the exact specific rule is, but you cannot like discount you can't deeply discount drinks at on like do like power hours anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
And
Oh
Don't
when
man.
tell
my
that to don't tell that to Cutters on Thursdays. That's crazy work. Cutters on Thursdays?
it's like
Dollar
yeah,
$2. It's
dollar
like
beer night,
$2
baby.
beer and then like $2 Yinglings or whatever or $2 Wells.
It's $1 Yinglings.
but back
Normal beer and
there used to be like there was like quarter night at one point, and before that there was like nickel night, like years ago. Yeah,
I feel like
Athens
Yara,
used to
you're
be crazy.
gaslighting me. I
Yara,
feel like you're gaslighting me. This is
what's your
true.
favorite bar in Athens, Yara?
Oh,
This is good
honestly,
content.
it depends on the day. If
Thursday
okay,
night, Thursday, take it, walk us through Thursday night through Saturday.
okay.
Where you go on Thursday through Saturday?
Thursday is always dollar beer night at Cutters. That's
Cutters
like,
that Cutters is the one we agree on. I think Cutters is like a great bad bar. It's
yeah.
awful in the best possible way. Yeah.
What's
Oh
amazing
yeah.
about Cutters is that it's still around because it was
It's
around when we
nice.
were in college.
If y'all have been to Cutters recently, it is so much nicer than when we were in college. Cutters. It's like about twice the size and clean, way cleaner than it used to be.
Clean is
Yeah.
a fascinating word that you use to
Cleaner.
describe Cutters. Okay.
Dude, my hand got stuck on a pool table at Cutters one
What the
time. It ripped
okay.
some of the skin off when I lifted it.
My
Anyway,
girlfriend at the time got drugged at Cutters, actually,
Oh my God.
back in the
What
day.
the fuck?
Yeah.
Damn. All
Not
right.
by me.
Thanks.
Clarifying statements.
Clarifying.
Yes. Excellent. Friday, it really, again, it just depends so much. I think Fridays normally, like about now, I would probably go to Boar's Head because they have like an outdoor area and they have that porch area on top. They also have a downstairs. And it's just a nice place to talk and hang out with your friends. Although me a few years ago would say like 90s or sake. And 90s wasn't even called, wait, was it called that when you guys went to
it
college? I
was
thought it was
called
called,
80s.
oh
No,
wow.
it wasn't even that
It
either. When we
was it
went
was called
there,
Uptown Lounge.
no, that was at 90s, right? That was it was something else.
Well, 80s and 90s were two different places when I was in school. 90s
Oh my
was where
God,
it
you
is
weren't
now.
joking? I thought you were kidding.
There was a place called 80s that was like over on where like Georgia, oh, what's that little bar on the corner of it was on the same road where like Taco Mama or Taco what's that taco joint that was on the corner there by the deck?
Taco
Um
Mac?
no.
Oh,
There's Fuzzies. Fuzzies used to be right
Oh,
there, and then like right next to that, past that, there was Copper Creek, and then 80s. And 80s was like the creepiest bar on the planet because it was like scared sorority girls and like 40-year-old men listening to 80s
what
music.
the f did they do at 80s? Did they play the Beatles? What happened in the 80s?
Oh my God.
Yara,
Sorry.
there was no bar called 90s when I went to college because I got there in the 90s. So at the end of the 90s.
What the what the
Yara,
It was
I
called Uptown
Okay.
Lounge. That was Uptown Lounge is where all that went down, Jim.
Was it? I thought there was something off like Clayton over somewhere else. It was, I can't remember what it was
all
called.
right, so what's your Saturday bar?
Okay. I'll take what we
It's
did a couple
Sake
of Saturday.
Mama.
It's always sake mama. I
Yeah.
love sake mama and I love a good sake bomb.
It's where
Um,
it's next to Generals for the olds.
Cloud?
It's
Okay, for the olds,
Oh,
yeah,
are you talking
for
about
those.
sake?
yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
So that's a lot of fun. Hmm. 90s is fun. Sometimes I go to Cloud if the line isn't long, but a lot of the time it's really long because a lot of like I don't know, so many people go there. Apparently, the entire Atlanta Hawks team was there the other day. That was crazy. I, the line is always crazy and the cover is so expensive. But I like Polly's a lot because they have food. And I'm a very simple person. If you feed me, I'm happy. But yeah, sometimes my friends like to go to church, and that's fine. I like the music there. It's not like 100, I don't
Church
know
is
if it
fun.
was. Yeah, it's nice. And that might be it. I used to go to Warehouse sometimes, which had a different name when you guys went there. I don't know what it was called
Where
though.
is it?
It's next to where Zombie Donuts was before it got replaced by like that vegan
Oh,
place.
what was that called?
And
There on
Mags.
the Mags. You know where Magnolia's is? Where y'all was that there when y'all were there on the corner on Broad? Like
Mm,
across from, what's the
It's
name of that? The across from that Italian joint on Broad Street.
it's across the street from
The
Bourbon.
Palmas?
Yeah, across
Yes,
from De Palma's and
Yeah.
Bourbon, there was that like rave bar that was like right there next to um but yeah, or at least when I was in school. That's called
Rave
Warehouse
bar.
now.
No, nowhere bar,
No,
barcode.
Nowhere Bar was is over on the other side.
I say
Um
that's still there.
yeah, that's still around. Nowhere Bar on my 21st birthday, we went there at 3 a.m. after they closed and they let us drink as much of a done keg of Killian's Irish Red as we could. And I that was the last time I have had Killian's Irish Red. I haven't had it in 15 years. Sworn it off.
What about
Because
All Good? Do you
uh,
ever go to All Good?
uh,
I went
All
to
Good's
All Good a
fun.
few
Okay.
times. Yeah, I like
That
it. I
was
like that
All
they
Good
have an
is a good
outside.
All Good is a good Gen X bar.
yeah.
Solid Gen X
When we were
presence.
there, it was called Gator Haters.
Gator
No,
Gator
haters. Yeah.
haters.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes.
did y'all ever go to Molly O'Shea's?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
As an institution. I don't think it's around anymore. It's across from All Good, and used to be called like Double Barrel, maybe, or like 1785. A couple of bars ran through there. For me,
We used to have JR's Bait Shack was another place that we used to like to go to.
I think that didn't that turn into Beach Bar? Um,
It's right next to Toppers, or
yeah.
what used to be Toppers. I don't know if
Oh
Toppers
no,
is.
that's not that anymore. But yeah, Toppers is still there. For me, the only two, if you're old, the places to go in Athens now are Hilo, which is over on Prince. And then
What?
what?
A
Y'all never been to
bar off of
Hilo?
a bar? No, I've never
It's
been.
in Normal Town. It's like there's like past the hospital on Prince. A
Yeah.
really good like dive bar, really good cocktails. Uh if you're like willing to put up with like the counterculture a little bit, I really like World Famous. Like the food is really good, good cocktails. Trapeze. Those are
Love
like
trapeze.
that
Trapeze is
side of downtown with like Trapeze and Ted's Most Best and Creature Comforts. That's like the old people side of downtown.
That's
Um,
basically where I hang out when I'm there.
yeah. I just like rotate around there so no one will think I'm creepy. I occasionally go to the Globe is still around. Um, They just reopened it, actually. It's way nicer than it used to be. Anyway,
Nice.
good luck
Nice.
editing this, Jim.
That's
Yeah.
okay. That's
Have
okay.
fun.
How do we round this out? How do we round this out?
What's a
We got
successful? Let me ask you this: What's a success? This is something I always ask Yara at the beginning of the year.
hmm.
What's a successful season look like? Like a season, what is the minimum standard where the season's over and you're like, good?
I mean, I feel like the standard at this point is make the playoff. Um, especially with the way this team was set up like preseason. I felt like, man, if this team doesn't make the playoff, what the heck? Like something went horribly wrong. And I think, you make the playoff, you got a chance. So that's it for
Is
me.
make the playoff the win the East?
I guess. Yeah.
Is that the new win the East?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, for me, I would say getting to the national championship would have been my bellwether because of all of the hype that we had coming in preseason and all the talent that we have. Like,
Yeah.
there's there's literally no excuse for us to not be there because especially the way that the season has panned out, where you kind of thought that we would be facing the Alabamas of the world, and they're clearly down, and obviously they beat us, but golly, if we'd have won that game, it would have been so amazing. Um, yeah, I would say making it to the national championship has got to be um, the measure of success for this particular team.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Yara, what do you think?
Okay. Well, y'all know I'm biased because six I have, reached, I don't want to brag, well, maybe I'll brag a little bit. Like the peak of the success for me has already happened. Like we've won national championships and then we won another one, you know?
Mm.
Trust me, you can always
We
win more.
exactly. I think if we lock in, if we at the very I need James Coley to figure out what's wrong. And after that, wait, like I don't know what needs to happen. I don't know if he needs to take ashwagandha. I don't know if he needs a therapist. Something needs to happen. Carson Beck, thank you for stepping up in a high pressure environment. It's time to stay on this, anti-anxiety medication dosage. This is what needs to happen in order for us to make it to national championship. Do I think we can?
Mm.
Like I said in our preview episode, there are two Georgias right now. It's like we have multiple personalities or something. One of the Georgias, kind of poops their pants a little bit at the Alabama and at home and or at Alabama, and things, especially in the first half, and things don't happen the way that they should. One of the same team also wins by only 10 to Mississippi State, whose stats are all abysmal. And the other team is the one that we saw at Texas, where we lock in, we figure out what's happening, even though our stats weren't the best, at least offensively, our defense was elite. And that is what secured us that win and that defining win, I might add. So these are two teams.
Mm.
If we continue to play like this second team that knows what they're doing and continues to improve on both their strengths and their weaknesses and just continues to go up and up, absolutely we make it to the playoffs. Absolutely we make it to the national championship. And absolutely we have a chance at winning because this season is so unpredictable. If we revert back to team number one, the team that pooped its pants at Alabama in the first half, nah, nah. We secure that dreaded when we don't even get to number 5 seed, honestly. We drop a little bit, I say, and we get our butts kicked by, I'll say it, Alabama.
Well, so
You know?
what's the minimum that has to happen for you not to have a restraining order against an offensive coach at UGA?
Ooh, the minimum that has to happen, continuing to put up stats like what we did at Texas. And getting Carson Beck some help. Please, dear Lord. Help him stop being anxious. And like, I feel so bad because you can see him overthinking when he gets in really high pressure situations. I know that look. I have anxiety. I see you, Carson Beck. It's like we just need to
Yeah. Get that man
get
some
him.
Lexapro.
Yes, please. Get that man some help and get James Coley some ashwagandha and Mike
Ah!
Bobo, I'm giving you a break today. I'm not even gonna talk trash about my Bobo. Please clap, guys. Please clap vigorously.
That was
This
good.
is taking
You've
a
done
lot
well.
of
You've done well.
thank you. This is taking a lot of restraint from me. A lot of a PR
Um,
training.
I think
Um
to me, success is get to get a home playoff game. I
mhm.
think that
Yeah.
nobody's dignity in college football matters because nobody keeps it for long. But if you want to stay at the station in the sport that you're in, you can't be taking a road trip to like Clemson or Miami or something. I feel like I think
Yeah.
if you have a home playoff game, then you can. I think there's a scenario where like you could have a home playoff game and do the like wild card thing where you're like,
Mhm.
the wild card team in baseball who just gets hot and wins a bunch of
Yep.
games. Like I think it's totally possible, but I think that's the minimum.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. I'm on board with that.
All right, boys.
Well,
Well, this is going to come out on our feed as well, so you might be listening to this on either one of our feeds. But it's been awesome. Thank you for having us on.
yeah,
Thank you for getting together with us.
this has been a blast. I'm glad Yara sent the trade proposal. It's fantastic.
Yay! I'm so
Accepted.
glad we could do this. This is so much fun.
It was, and
It was
it
fun.
was just as off the rails as I knew it would be, which is awesome.
That's what we needed for a bye week. We
That's right.
we went down
That's
the
right.
rabbit hole on Athens bars and
That's
talked
right.
about Northern Idaho and domestic terrorism. Like it's
Listen, if y'all want to,
fantastic.
I don't really listen to podcasts other than like 3 or 4 UGA podcasts, of which y'all's is one, and Split Zone Duo. But my podcast habit has been replaced by documentaries. So if y'all want to like get into some cult stuff, like I am ready to talk about compounds and standoffs and the history of the FBI hostage rescue team and the things that led to Timothy McVeigh and how that Timothy McVeigh is connected to Waco and Ruby Ridge and stuff. Like I'm so
I
ready to I have a wall at my house almost. Like I don't, but I could.
I feel a side
Po-
project brewing here, Nathan.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Podcast
I mean
after
like
the podcast is going to be lit.
yeah, if you guys ever want
Uh,
to like just like I have like 4 topics that I will talk about like an idiot until someone tells me to stop. One of them is college football, and it's like anything related to novels, military aviation, and the history of domestic terrorism. So I'm really fun at
Awesome.
parties.
that sounds like it. Obviously, we'll have to talk about that over a beer at one of the bars we discussed
Yes.
eventually.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, hey, if you made it this far, you're a real one for one of these shows. We appreciate everyone listening. If you're not following, go follow on the socials. My God
Yeah.
Podcast, Chapel Bell Curve.
Yeah.
Check it out. And with that, go
Go
dogs.
dogs.
Go
Go
dogs.
Go
dogs.
dogs.